Michigan is a state of glistening lakes, serene waters, and endless forests. Yet beneath its calm surfaces lie dark secrets and restless souls. These are waters where tragedy struck, lives were lost, and the echoes of the past refused to sink. Tonight, we explore 25 of Michigan's most haunted lakes, where phantom figures rise, eerie lights hover, and the drowned whisper for the living to listen. Step carefully, for the lakes remember every soul that touched their waters, and in Michigan, the drowned never truly rest. Crystal Lake in Benzie County sits nestled among dense pine and maple forests, its glassy waters reflecting the surrounding hills and open sky. By day, it appears serene and inviting, a perfect spot for swimming, fishing, or quiet contemplation. Families picnic along the shore. Kayakers glide across the surface, and anglers cast their lines with steady patience. Yet beneath this placid exterior lies a darker history. Over the decades, the lake has been the site of multiple drownings, leaving behind stories of loss and tragedy that some say continue to manifest in the waters and along the shoreline. Visitors after dark often report experiences that defy explanation, drawing both curious thrill seekers and dedicated paranormal enthusiasts. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves ghostly figures appearing in the water. Locals describe shadowy shapes moving just beneath the surface, sometimes rising to the surface momentarily, only to vanish again. Kayakers and boaters often notice ripples or disturbances in the lake that seem to have no natural cause, moments when the water appears to shift as if something unseen is moving just below. Swimmers have recounted glimpses of pale, human-like forms standing in the shallows or floating silently beneath the water, their outlines indistinct but unmistakably humanoid. These apparitions are often most visible during calm, moonlit nights, when the reflection of the water is undisturbed, and every movement seems amplified. Auditory phenomena accompany the visual manifestations. Witnesses frequently report hearing screams carried across the lake, high-pitched and sudden, echoing as if bouncing off the surrounding hills. Sometimes the screams are sharp and terrified, other times they are prolonged and agonized, leaving listeners with a sense of dread and sorrow. Even when the lake is empty, the cries seem to emerge from the depths, carried by the wind in unpredictable patterns. Swimmers and shore visitors alike describe a chilling sensation when the screams occur, as if the past anguish of the drowned is pressing against the present, demanding recognition or attention. Phantom boat lights are another hallmark of Crystal Lake's haunting. Boaters have reported seeing small, dim lights moving across the surface in the darkness, often in areas where no other watercraft are present. These lights sometimes follow a linear path, drifting silently across the lake, while other times they appear to move erratically, flickering as if the operator were indecisive or struggling. Observers attempting to approach the lights frequently find that they vanish entirely, leaving only the dark expanse of water behind. Some locals interpret these lights as the spirits of those lost on the lake, attempting to navigate the waters even after death, trapped in a cycle that cannot end. Physical sensations often accompany the auditory and visual phenomena. Visitors waiting in the shallows report the sudden brushing of cold hands against their legs, fleeting touches that vanish as quickly as they appear. Swimmers describe moments when the water seems to grow inexplicably cold in localized areas, chills that run from their feet to their torso despite the overall temperature remaining warm. Boaters sometimes feel an unseen presence rocking their vessel slightly, an imperceptible but disconcerting motion that cannot be attributed to wind or current. These sensations add a tactile element to the haunting, making the lake's presence palpable even for those who see nothing. The history of Crystal Lake contributes heavily to its reputation. Over the decades, multiple drownings of both accidental and, in some cases, unexplained have occurred, often involving children or young adults. Locals recount tragic stories of swimmers caught in sudden currents, boaters capsized in unexpected storms, and individuals who disappeared without a trace. These events, passed down through generations, are believed to have left residual energy within the lake itself, imprinting moments of fear, struggle, and grief onto the waters and surrounding landscape. Visitors crossing or lingering at the lake after dark are thought to be entering a space where these residual energies continue to manifest. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Crystal Lake on numerous occasions. Audio recordings frequently capture faint screams, cries for help, and whispers that seem to come from beneath the water. Thermal imaging often detects cold spots near the shore and along the docks, while EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras occasionally fail or capture indistinct shapes beneath the surface or drifting across the lake. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during the late evening and early night hours, particularly when the water is calm and the environment is quiet, reinforcing the eerie sense of an active but unseen presence. Foggy or misty nights amplify the haunting. Low-lying mist rises from the lake, obscuring visibility, and softening distant sounds, making ghostly lights appear brighter. The echo of screams sharper. Shadowy figures in the water become more difficult to discern, but more unnerving, appearing to drift just beneath the surface or along the edges of docks and piers. The cold brushes against legs or feet feel more pronounced in these conditions, enhancing the sense that the lake itself is aware, observing, and interacting with those who enter its domain. Locals often caution visitors to remain vigilant when near the lake after dark. Many avoid swimming or boating at night, while those who do venture onto the water are advised to move carefully and remain aware of their surroundings. Experience glimpses of ghostly figures, the unsettling touch of cold hands, the distant echo of screams, leaving a lasting impression of the Lakia-S haunting presence. Crystal Lake in Benzie County is more than a tranquil body of water. Its ghostly figures, screams carried by the wind, phantom boat lights, and chilling touches all testify to lives lost and memories that remain embedded in its waters. For those visiting after nightfall, the lake is not merely a scenic destination. It is a place where tragedy lingers, where unseen presences replay moments of fear and sorrow, and where the spirits of the lost continue to haunt the dark, reflective surface of the water. Diamond Lake in Clare County lies nestled among rolling hills, dense forests, and open meadows, its waters reflecting the shifting sky and surrounding trees. By day, it is a picturesque scene. Kayakers glide across the calm surface, anglers cast lines from the shore, and families enjoy picnics along its banks. The Lakia-S serene appearance belies a darker history. Locals recount stories of family who vanished during a boating trip decades ago, leaving behind a legacy of tragedy and unexplained phenomena. Since that time, visitors and paranormal enthusiasts have reported experiences that defy explanation, creating a reputation for the lake as one of the most haunted spots in the region. One of the most common reports involves eerie cries echoing across the water. Drivers along nearby roads, campers on the shore, and visitors in boats at dusk often hear faint calls for help carried on the wind. At times, the cries are sharp and urgent, piercing the stillness of the evening, while at other moments they are prolonged and heart-wrenching, as if replaying a moment of terror. Witnesses describe an emotional weight that accompanies these sounds, a sense of sorrow and desperation that seems almost tangible, leaving listeners with lingering unease that does not dissipate when the cries fade. Shapes moving beneath the water are another frequently reported phenomenon. Swimmers and boaters have occasionally glimpsed dark, indistinct forms just below the surface, shifting and moving as though some thingda or somebody is present but hidden. Kayakers describe shadows darting beneath their vessels, disappearing the moment they attempt to focus on them, while shore visitors have reported seeing ripples in areas of the lake where no wind or current should exist. These shapes often appear in groups or suggest the presence of multiple entities, and witnesses commonly interpret them as the spirits of the vanished family or other lost souls trapped in the waters of Diamond Lake. Laughter is another unsettling aspect of the Lockyer-esque reputation. Locals and visitors alike report the sound of children laughing across the water, sometimes distant and playful, other times abrupt and frantic. The laughter often begins innocently enough, evoking memories of joy or play, but is frequently followed by desperate, high-pitched screaming that pierces the night. Drivers passing nearby have described hearing these sequences, while no other human presence is visible, leaving them with a chilling sense that something unseen is reliving a moment of joy immediately followed by terror. Pedestrians on the shore recount similar experiences, noting that the alternating sounds of laughter and screaming create a disorienting, emotionally charged atmosphere that lingers long after leaving the area. Visitors frequently report physical sensations alongside these auditory and visual phenomena. Swimmers sometimes feel cold hands brushing against their legs or feet, sudden chills that cannot be attributed to the water temperature or ambient air. Boaters have described a sensation of being nudged or tugged by invisible forces, sometimes gentle, sometimes insistent, as if unseen presences are attempting to interact with them. Even on the shore, pedestrians often report a sense of being watched or followed, a prickling at the back of the neck or along the spine, particularly near areas of the lake associated with past disappearances. These tactile experiences reinforce the sense of an. Local lore maintains that the haunting is tied to the vanished family and the numerous drownings that have occurred over the years. Witnesses claim that the family's disappearance created a focal point for residual energy, where emotions of fear, joy, and desperation replay themselves repeatedly. Residents tell stories of past visitors encountering unexplained movements, ghostly figures, and disembodied voices, all of which have been passed down through generations. For those who approach the lake after dusk, Diamond Lake becomes more than a natural settinga. It transforms into a place where past tragedies continue to manifest in vivid, often disturbing ways. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Diamond Lake over many years. Audio recordings often capture faint cries, repeated names, and sequences of laughter followed by screaming. Thermal imaging frequently reveals cold spots along the shore or beneath the water's surface. EMF meters spike unpredictably, and cameras occasionally capture shadowy shapes consistent with human forms moving just below the surface. Investigators report that the phenomena often intensify when observers focus on them, creating a sense that the lake itself responds to attention, aware of those who enter its base. Foggy or misty nights enhance the haunting. Low-hanging mist drifts across the water, reducing visibility and softening distant sounds. The laughter and screams appear amplified, carried farther across the lake. Shadows beneath the surface seem to move more rapidly or appear closer than they actually are. Witnesses frequently describe a feeling of walking through a liminal space, where the boundary between life and death, past and present, is fragile. Even brief visits on such nights are enough to leave a lasting impression of the lake's haunting. Locals often advise caution when near Diamond Lake after dark. Many avoid boating or swimming at night, while those who do venture out are urged to remain alert and aware of their surroundings. Even short experiences are often enough to witness ghostly shapes, chilling touches, and the alternating laughter and screams, leaving an unforgettable impression. Diamond Lake in Clare County is more than a scenic body of water. Its ghostly figures, cries carried across the surface, phantom laughter, and chilling touches testify to lives lost, and memories that remain embedded in its waters. For those visiting after nightfall, the lake is not merely a natural attraction. It is a place where tragedy lingers, where unseen presences replay moments of joy and fear, and where the spirits of the vanished continue to haunt the dark, reflective waters for anyone who dares to come near. The shoreline of Lake Michigan at Grand Haven is a place of quiet beauty by day. Soft sand stretches along the water's edge, waves lap gently against the shore, and seagulls will overhead against a backdrop of clear skies. Families stroll along the beaches. Fishermen cast lines from piers, and tourists take in the vast expanse of the lake. Fishermen cast lines from piers, and tourists take in the vast expanse of the lake, often unaware of the long and tragic history that has shaped this area. Beneath its serene surface lies a legacy of shipwrecks, storms, and lost lives, events that locals say have left an indelible mark on the lake. After dark, the shoreline transforms, and visitors frequently report phenomena that defy explanation: ghostly figures, and strange lights that seem to glide across the water, each carrying the weight. One of the most reported experiences involves phantom sailors appearing on the waves. Locals recount seeing shadowy figures standing on the surface of the water or moving along the swells, dressed in what appears to be period maritime attire. Boaters and shoreline observers describe these figures as faint but distinctly human, their forms often partially translucent and flickering with movement. Witnesses sometimes report that the apparitions seem to struggle against the current or wave patterns, as if caught between life and death. At times, the sailors appear to be signaling, gesturing toward the shore, or attempting to warn passing vessels of hidden dangers beneath the waves. The figures vanish the moment one approaches, leaving only the dark, restless water behind. Voices calling from the depths are another frequent phenomenon. Visitors often report hearing muffled cries, shouts, or desperate pleas that seem to come from beneath the lake's surface. Some describe hearing faint conversations, as though sailors are calling to one another across the waves, while others recount hearing a single, desperate voice calling for help. Drivers along the nearby roads and walkers along the piers have both reported hearing these sounds, which carry unnaturally far and often cease abruptly, leaving an eerie silence. Swimmers and those near the water's edge occasionally experience a heightened sense of foreboding when the calls occur, a deep emotional pull that seems to reach through the night air and into their awareness. Strange orbs of light are a hallmark of the haunting at Grand Haven. Witnesses describe small, glowing spheres that move across the water at surface, sometimes hovering near the shoreline, at other times drifting farther into the lake. The orbs often appear to respond to human presence. Approaching observers may see the lights recede, while standing still seems to allow them to linger. Some locals interpret the orbs as guiding spirits, warning travelers of hidden shoals, submerged wreckage, or sudden currents. Others describe them as more sinister, following boats and swimmers, creating a sense of being watched or even guided toward danger. Physical sensations often accompany these visual and auditory experiences. Visitors have reported sudden chills while standing on the shore, especially when ghostly figures or orbs are visible. Swimmers and boaters sometimes feel inexplicable tugging at their limbs, as though unseen hands are reaching out from beneath the waves. Even on the pier, pedestrians describe a sense of pressure or presence at their backs, a feeling of being observed by entities beyond human perception. These tactile experiences add a profound intensity to the haunting, making the Loch-Ness presence palpable even to those who cannot see the apparitions or hear the voices. The history of shipwrecks along Lake Michigan's Grand Haven shoreline is central to its haunting. Over the decades, storms, shifting currents, and navigational hazards claimed countless vessels and lives. Sailors who perished in the icy waters, families who lost loved ones, and passengers swept from decks into depths all contributed to a legacy of tragedy. Locals believe that these events have left a residual energy in the lake, which continues to manifest through ghostly figures, voices, and lights. For those who approach after dark, the shoreline becomes a place where history repeats itself subtly, where moments of fear, desperation, and loss play out for anyone willing or unwilling to witness them. Paranormal investigators have recorded activity at Grand Haven's shoreline extensively. Audio devices capture faint cries and murmured words, sometimes overlapping with the natural sounds of waves and wind. Thermal imaging reveals pockets of cold air near the piers and shoreline that defy environmental explanation, while EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting shapes on the water's surface, consistent with reports of phantom sailors, and lights sometimes appear on video that are absent when investigators review the scene in daylight. Observers note that the activity often intensifies when attention is focused, suggesting a responsive or conscious element to the haunting. Fog and mist rising off the lake amplify the eerie phenomena. Low-hanging fog softens distant sounds, making voices carry farther and the echoes of screams more chilling. Shadowy figures appear more spectral, wavering on the surface of the water, and the glowing orbs take on an almost ethereal glow in the diffuse light. Witnesses describe a sensation of walking into a liminal space, where the boundary between the living and the dead, the present and the past, is thin and permeable. Even brief visits on misty nights are enough to leave an indelible impression of the haunting. Locals often caution visitors to remain vigilant along the Grand Haven shoreline after dark. Many avoid the water entirely, while those who venture near are advised to move carefully and stay aware of their surroundings. Even brief encounters are frequently enough to witness phantom sailors, hear distant cries, or see the mysterious orbs, leaving a lasting sense of the lake's otherworldly presence. Lake Michigan at Grand Haven is more than a scenic destination. Its ghostly sailors, voices from the depths, and mysterious lights testify to lives lost and memories that linger. For those visiting after nightfall, the shoreline is not merely a scenic stretch of Sonda, it is a threshold where tragedy persists, where the spirits of shipwreck victims continue to reach across the waves, and where the echoes of the drowned remain an undeniable part of the night. Torch Lake in Antrim County stretches across the northern Michigan landscape with its long, clear waters framed by dense forests and rolling hills. By day, it is a popular destination for boating, fishing, and swimming, the lake sparkling in the sunlight as families and tourists enjoy its pristine shores. Yet beneath the serene surface lies a history tinged with mystery and tragedy. Over the years, locals and visitors have reported numerous unexplained phenomena, particularly after dark. Shadowy figures, phantom boats, and eerie sounds are said to appear on the lake. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves shadowy figures seen swimming near the shore at night. Witnesses often describe indistinct shapes moving just beneath the water or gliding along the surface. Swimmers and boaters recount moments when they see figures emerge momentarily, only to vanish when approached. Some report the silhouettes as distinctly human, appearing to mimic swimming motions, while others describe them as darker, almost amorphous forms that drift silently beneath the surface. Others describe them as darker, almost amorphous forms that drift silently beneath the surface. These figures are often accompanied by a sense of unease, an inexplicable feeling that something unseen is observing or interacting with them. An inexplicable feeling that something unseen is observing or interacting with them. Screams echoing across the water are another hallmark of Torch Lake's haunted reputation. Visitors on the shoreline or in small boats at night frequently report hearing high-pitched cries carried across the expanse of the lake. At times, the screams sound urgent and terrified, as though someone is struggling or calling for help. Other times, they are prolonged, echoing with an almost mournful quality, leaving witnesses with a lingering sense of dread. These auditory phenomena often occur without warning and vanish just as suddenly, leaving the area eerily silent, punctuated only by the natural sounds of water lapping against the shore. Phantom canoes are also commonly reported. Locals and visitors alike have described seeing small boats gliding silently across the water, appearing and disappearing without any trace or explanation. Some observers note that the canoes seem to move in impossible ways, changing direction suddenly or floating in place as if guided by an unseen hand. Others have seen figures seated inside the vessels, obscured by darkness or mist, vanishing before anyone could approach. Boaters recount encounters where the phantom canoes appear to follow them, matching their movements before fading into the night. Many interpret these apparitions as the lingering spirits of those who once navigated the lake, unable to leave, forever tied to its waters. Physical sensations often accompany the visual and auditory phenomena. Visitors waiting near the shore report sudden chills or the feeling of cold hands brushing against their legs, fleeting touches that leave them startled. Swimmers sometimes describe water that feels inexplicably colder in localized patches, even on warm nights, or subtle nudges that suggest the presence of unseen beings. Boaters occasionally sense a light tug on their vessels, an imperceptible movement that cannot be explained by wind or current. These tactile experiences reinforce the perception that Torch Lake is more than a simple body of water. Local lore suggests that these hauntings are tied to tragedies along the lake over the decades. Accidents, drownings, and unexpected storms have claimed lives, leaving behind stories passed down through generations. Witnesses maintain that the energy of these lost souls continues to manifest in the form of shadowy figures, phantom canoes, and screams carried across the water. Those who venture onto the lake after dark enter a place where the boundary between past and present is fragile, a space in which memories of fear, struggle, and sorrow replay themselves for anyone willinga or unwillinga to witness them. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Torch Lake extensively. Audio equipment often captures faint cries, echoes, and unidentifiable voices. EMF meters spike unpredictably along the shoreline. Thermal imaging frequently detects sudden cold spots near docks, shorelines, and boat launch areas. Cameras occasionally record fleeting figures beneath the surface or small, unexplained lights gliding across the water, consistent with reports of phantom canoes. Investigators note that these manifestations are most pronounced on calm nights when the water is still and the environment is quiet, enhancing the eerie perception of active spirits. Fog and mist rising from the lake intensify the haunting. Low-hanging fog obscures visibility and softens ambient sounds, allowing echoes of screams and laughter to carry farther across the water. Shadowy forms beneath the surface become more fleeting and spectral, while phantom boats appear brighter and more distinct against the haze. Witnesses often describe an otherworldly sensation, as if stepping into a threshold between the living world and the lingering presence of the past. Even brief visits during such conditions are enough to leave a lasting impression of Torch Lake's haunting. Locals frequently caution visitors to remain vigilant after dark. Many avoid swimming, boating, or lingering near the shore, while those who do venture out are advised to stay aware of surroundings. Even brief experiences can involve shadowy figures, sudden chills, screams, and phantom vessels, leaving an unforgettable mark. Torch Lake in Antrim County is more than a picturesque destination. It's shadowy swimmers, screams echoing across the water, and phantom canoes testify to lives lost, and a lingering presence of those spirits. For anyone visiting after dark, the lake is not simply a place for recreation, it is a haunting space where tragedy continues to manifest, where the echoes of the past linger in the night, and where the spirits of the lost remain tied to the waters, eternally unseen but palpably present. Houghton Lake in Roscommon County stretches across the northern Michigan landscape as the state's largest inland lake, its vast waters framed by dense forests and open fields. By day, it is a hub of activity. Boaters navigate its wide expanse, anglers cast lines from the shoreline or piers, and families enjoy swimming, picnicking, and water sports. The Lakia's serene beauty, however, masks a darker history. Over decades, numerous boating accidents and drownings have occurred, leaving behind stories of tragedy that locals say still echo across the waters. Visitors after dusk, or during the long, cold winters, often report phenomena that defy explanation of unseen disturbances, ghostly apparitions, and disembodied screamsa, earning Houghton Lake a reputation as one of Michigan's most haunted bodies of water. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves unexplained splashing. Locals and visitors alike have recounted hearing the sound of water churning, as if someone or something is swimming or moving just beneath the surface, only to find the lake entirely still when investigated. Boaters sometimes notice ripples appearing around their vessels without wind or current, and swimmers have described sudden waves lapping against their bodies, as though someone unseen is nearby. These disturbances often appear near areas historically associated with accidents, piers, or launch points, lending the impression that the lake itself preserves echoes of past events, replaying moments of struggle or distress. Ghostly faces peering above the water are another unsettling phenomenon. Witnesses frequently describe pale, human-like shapes emerging from the Lakia's depths, appearing to look directly at those nearby. Swimmers report seeing faces break the surface briefly before vanishing entirely, while boaters sometimes glimpse forms floating motionless just beneath the water. as if trapped between worlds. Even from the shoreline, visitors have described the sensation of being watched, noticing ripples that form patterns resembling eyes or facial outlines. These spectral visages are often fleeting but leave a profound impression. Screams that echo across the lake are a hallmark of it haunting, particularly during the winter months when the surface freezes over. Locals recount hearing sharp, high-pitched cries carried over the ice, sounding as though someone is struggling beneath the frozen surface. Other times, the screams are drawn out and agonized, echoing across the lake and into the surrounding forests. Drivers along nearby roads or visitors walking across frozen portions of the lake have reported sudden, piercing screams that fade as abruptly as they began, leaving an eerie silence that contrasts with the otherwise peaceful winter landscape. These auditory experiences create a hauntingly immersive environment, reinforcing the lake's reputation as a place where tragedy and loss are ever present. Physical sensations often accompany the auditory and visual phenomena. Visitors standing near the shoreline or walking on the ice report sudden chills, localized cold spots, and the feeling of unseen hands brushing against their legs or arms. Boaters have described the sensation of a light tug on their vessels, while swimmers sometimes experience inexplicable pressure or disturbance in the water around them. Even standing still, pedestrians report the sensation of being watched or followed, as if invisible presences are observing every movement. These tactile experiences amplify the haunting, making the presence of the Lakia's past tragedies tangible to anyone nearby. The history of Houghton Lake contributes heavily to its spectral reputation. Over the decades, numerous drownings have occurred due to boating accidents, sudden storms, or misadventures on the water. Families, young adults, and individuals navigating the lake have lost their lives unexpectedly, leaving behind stories passed down through generations. Residents maintain that the lake preserves a residual energy from these events, manifesting as ghostly figures, splashes, and cries. For those who venture near after dark or during quiet winter nights, Houghton Lake becomes more than a scenic location. It becomes a space where the past remains present, replaying moments of fear, struggle, and loss for anyone who crosses its expanse. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at the lake extensively. Audio recordings often capture faint splashing, cries for help, and disembodied voices that cannot be explained by wind, wildlife, or passing boats. Thermal imaging detects sudden cold spots along the shoreline, docks, and ice-covered sections, while EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras sometimes capture indistinct figures emerging from or beneath the water, consistent with eyewitness accounts of ghostly faces or humanoid shapes. Investigators note that the activity often intensifies during periods of stillness, fog, or winter darkness, giving the impression that the lake responds to human presence. Foggy or misty nights and frozen winter conditions enhance the haunting. Low-hanging mist obscures visibility and carries sound farther across the water, making echoes of screams sharper, and the movements of spectral forms more pronounced. Ice-covered surfaces amplify the sense of isolation and danger as the lake becomes both silent and unpredictable, magnifying the impact of auditory and visual phenomena. Visitors frequently describe a sensation of stepping into a liminal space where the boundary between life and death is thin, where past tragedies replay themselves, and where unseen presences linger just beneath the surface. Locals often warn visitors to remain cautious when near Houghton Lake after dark or during winter months. Many avoid the water entirely, while those who venture onto the lake or along its shoreline are advised to remain alert. Even brief encounters are often enough to witness ghostly faces, hear chilling screams, or feel sudden cold touches, leaving a lasting impression of the lake's haunting. Houghton Lake in Roscommon County is more than a scenic expanse of water. Its ghostly faces, unexplained splashes, and screams echoing across ice and water alike testify to lives lost and memories that remain embedded in its depths. For those who visit after nightfall or during the cold winter months, the lake is not merely a recreational destination. It is a threshold where the past persists, where spirits of the drowned continue to manifest, and where the echoes of tragedy remain an undeniable part of the surrounding landscape. Walloon Lake in Charlevoix County stretches across northern Michigan like a shimmering mirror, its clear waters reflecting the surrounding forests and rolling hills. By day, it is a destination for families, boaters, and anglers, its calm surface inviting swimming, kayaking, and fishing. Yet beneath the Lakia's tranquil beauty lies a history marked by loss and unexplained occurrences. Over the decades, numerous swimmers and boaters have disappeared without a trace, leaving behind stories of tragedy that locals and visitors whisper about with caution. As night falls, the lake transforms into a site of eerie phenomena, where ghostly apparitions, phantom footsteps, and mysterious waves create an atmosphere that is both unsettling and captivating. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves apparitions of swimmers who never returned. Visitors have recounted glimpses of shadowy forms gliding through the water, sometimes moving just beneath the surface, other times breaking through it momentarily. Swimmers and boaters alike describe these figures as distinctly human, yet semi-transparent, appearing as if caught between this world and the next. Some witnesses have reported the sensation of being watched as they swim, sensing unseen eyes tracking their movements from just below the surface. Attempts to approach these apparitions often result in their sudden disappearance, leaving only ripples on the water as a haunting reminder of lives lost to the lake. To the lake. Phantom footsteps along the shore are another commonly reported phenomenon. Those walking near the water's edge after dark had described hearing light, hurried steps that echo across sand and gravel, often matching their own pace or trailing just behind. Sometimes the footsteps appear to circle the area, moving toward docks, piers, or nearby vegetation, only to vanish suddenly when investigated. Visitors frequently report the feeling of being accompanied, a subtle but persistent awareness that something unseen is walking alongside them. Even those standing still have noted the sensation, as if the footsteps are not just sounds but manifestations of restless presences lingering near the shoreline. Unexplained waves crashing against the shore further amplify the haunting, as if someone or something ran into the lake, despite no wind or passing boats disturbing the surface. These sudden movements of water are often accompanied by a sense of unease or foreboding, as if the lake itself is reacting to an invisible force. Boaters have recounted their vessels rocking inexplicably in calm waters, while swimmers report being splashed by waves that seem to have no natural cause. The combination of sudden water movement, eerie apparitions, and phantom footsteps creates a hauntingly immersive environment for anyone near Walloon Lake after dusk. Physical sensations often accompany these visual and auditory experiences. Visitors standing along the shore sometimes report sudden chills, localized cold spots, or a fleeting brushing sensation against their legs or arms. Swimmers describe the water feeling unusually cold in certain areas, often where ghostly forms have been reported. Boaters occasionally sense gentle tugs on their vessels, subtle movements that cannot be explained by current or wind. Even when no visual phenomena are observed, the lake exerts a palpable presence, leaving witnesses with a lingering sense that unseen presences are nearby and aware of their movements. Local lore maintains that these hauntings are tied to past drownings and unexplained disappearances. Residents recount stories of swimmers swept away by sudden currents, young adults who vanished while boating, and others who never returned after venturing into the water alone. These tragic events, passed down through generations, are believed to have left residual energy in the lake. Locals insist that this energy manifests as apparitions, phantom footsteps, and waves, preserving echoes of the lives and struggles of those who never made it back to shore. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Walloon Lake over the years. Audio recordings capture faint splashes, whispering voices, and the echo of footsteps along the shoreline. Audio recordings capture faint splashes, whispering voices, and the echo of footsteps along the shoreline. Thermal imaging frequently reveals sudden cold spots near piers, docks, and frequently visited swimming areas. Thermal imaging frequently reveals sudden cold spots near piers, docks, and frequently visited swimming areas. EMF meters often spike unpredictably, while cameras occasionally capture fleeting, translucent figures in the water or along the shore. EMF meters often spike unpredictably, while cameras occasionally capture fleeting, translucent figures in the water or along the shore. Investigators note that these phenomena tend to intensify at night, particularly during calm, still conditions when natural sounds are minimal, making every splash, footstep, and shadow more pronounced. Investigators note that these phenomena tend to intensify at night, particularly during calm, still conditions when natural sounds are minimal, making every splash, footstep, and shadow more pronounced. Foggy or misty nights amplify the lake's haunting. Low-hanging mist drifts across the water, softening distant sounds, and giving the apparitions an ethereal, wavering appearance. Shadowy forms beneath the surface appear closer than they are, and the sound of footsteps or splashing carries unnaturally far. Witnesses frequently describe a sense of stepping into a liminal space, where the boundary between life and death is fragile, and where echoes of past tragedies replay themselves. Even brief encounters during such conditions leave a lasting impression of the lake's spectral presence. Locals often caution visitors to exercise vigilance when near Walloon Lake after dark. Many avoid swimming or boating at night, while those who do venture near are advised to move carefully and remain aware of their surroundings. Even brief experiences are often enough to witness ghostly swimmers, hear phantom footsteps, or feel sudden chills and splashes, leaving an unforgettable impression. Walloon Lake in Charlevoix County is more than a scenic retreat. Its apparitions, phantom footsteps, and unexplained waves testify to lives lost and memories that remain embedded in the waters. For those visiting after nightfall, the lake is not merely a recreational destination. It is a haunting space where tragedy lingers, where unseen presences interact with the living, and where echoes of the lost continue to manifest. Where tragedy lingers, where unseen presences interact with the living, and where echoes of the lost continue to manifest, ensuring that the Lacka's dark history is never forgotten. Mullet Lake in Sheboygan County sprawls across northern Michigan, its deep waters framed by dense forests and rolling hills. By day, it is a haven for fishermen, boaters, and nature enthusiasts, its vast surface reflecting the sky and surrounding landscape. Anglers cast their lines from docks or small vessels, while kayakers and canoeists glide silently across the calm waters. Yet as the sun sets and darkness drapes over the lake, Mullet Lake takes on an eerie character. Locals and visitors alike have reported a variety of unexplained phenomena. Experiences have earned the lake a reputation as one of the most haunted in Michigan, a place where history, tragedy, and mystery converge. One of the most frequently reported occurrences involves shadowy figures. Fishermen recount moments when they spot dark shapes moving beneath the surface, sometimes appearing to swim against the current. These forms are often described as vaguely humanoid, yet their outlines are indistinct, flickering with movement. Observers often feel a sense of dread when these figures appear, reporting that the water seems heavier, denser, or even resistive, as though some unseen force is moving through it. Swimmers and kayakers have reported the unnerving sensation of being watched as these shapes drift nearby, vanishing the instant anyone tries to get a closer look. Unseen hands pulling boats is another phenomenon that has made Mullet Lake infamous among local anglers and nighttime visitors. Several reports describe small boats or canoes shifting against the current or rocking unexpectedly, even when the wind is calm and the water is smooth. Boaters sometimes experience a gentle tug at their vessel that gradually increases in intensity, as though something beneath the surface is attempting to steer or redirect them. In some cases, these interactions have caused vessels to drift dangerously close to rocks, shallow areas, or shorelines before the force suddenly stops, leaving the occupants shaken and unnerved. Many locals believe these are the restless spirits of those who had drowned in the lake over the years, manifesting their presence in ways that cannot be ignored. Ghostly lights floating above the lake are another commonly reported phenomenon. Witnesses describe small, glowing orbs hovering just above the water's surface, moving slowly or darting suddenly across the lake. The lights are often pale blue or white, sometimes flickering as if responding to the movements of observers. Anglers and boaters frequently report the lights guiding them along the lake, only to vanish when approached. Some interpret the lights as warnings, alerting travelers to submerged hazards or areas where accidents occurred in the past. Others view them as restless spirits attempting to communicate, their glow a manifestation of energy left behind in the water. Physical sensations often accompany these auditory and visual phenomena. Visitors have reported sudden chills while standing along the shore, localized cold spots near docks, or the inexplicable brushing of unseen hands against their arms or legs. Swimmers occasionally describe water that feels colder or heavier in specific areas, often coinciding with the appearance of shadowy figures. Boaters report feeling nudges or tugs at their vessels, sometimes subtle, sometimes insistent, adding a tangible layer to the lake's haunting presence. Even when no apparitions or lights are visible, local lore maintains that these hauntings are rooted in the lake's history of drownings and boating accidents. Generations of stories recount individuals swept away by sudden currents, unexpected storms, or mishaps while fishing or traveling on the lake. Residents believe that the energy from these tragic events lingers in the water, manifesting in shadowy figures, ghostly lights, and unseen forces that interact with the living. For those visiting after dark, Mullet Lake becomes more than a scenic location. It is a place where the past persists, replaying moments of struggle and fear for anyone who dares to enter its domain. Paranormal investigators have recorded extensive activity at the lake. Audio devices often capture faint splashes, whispers, or the creak of shifting boats that cannot be explained by natural sources. Thermal imaging frequently reveals cold spots near docks and along the shoreline, while EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting figures beneath the surface or lights that appear to float above the water without an identifiable source. Investigators note that these phenomena are often most pronounced on calm nights when human and environmental noise is minimal, allowing every sound, shadow, and light to be more noticeable and unnerving. Foggy or misty nights amplify the haunting at Mullet Lake. Low-lying mist drifts across the surface, reducing visibility and softening ambient sounds. Splashes, whispers, and lights become more pronounced against a misty backdrop. Shadowy figures beneath the water appear closer than they are. Glowing orbs become more vivid against a misty backdrop. Witnesses often describe an otherworldly atmosphere, a sense of crossing into a liminal space, where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin and permeable. Even brief nighttime visits leave a lasting impression of the Lakia's haunted nature. Locals often caution visitors to exercise care when venturing onto Mullet Lake after dark. Many avoid swimming, fishing, or boating at night, while those who do are advised to remain alert and observant. Even brief encounters can involve shadowy forms, ghostly lights, or unexplained tugs on vessels, leaving an indelible sense of the lake's otherworldly presence. Mullet Lake in Sheboygan County is more than a scenic body of water. Its shadowy swimmers, unseen hands, and floating lights testify to the lives lost, and the lingering energy embedded in the lake. For those visiting after nightfall, the lake is not simply a recreational destination. It is a haunting space where tragedy endures, where spirits remain active, and where the unexplained continues to reach across the waters, silently observed by the living. Elk Lake in Antrim County is a vast and serene body of water, its deep blue surface stretching across northern Michigan, surrounded by dense forests and gently rolling hills. By day, the lake is a haven for boating, fishing, and recreational activities. Families picnic along its sandy shores. Kayakers glide quietly through secluded coves, and anglers cast lines into the clear waters. Yet beneath this tranquil exterior lies a history steeped in tragedy and mystery. Locals tell stories of drownings that occurred long ago, accidents that claimed lives, and a lingering presence that continues to manifest in strange and unexplainable ways. Visitors after dusk or in the early hours of the morning often report eerie experiences. Screams carried across the water, faint figures walking on the surface, and boats seemingly moving without a human hand to guide them. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Elk Lake involves screams echoing through the night fog. Witnesses frequently describe hearing sharp, high-pitched cries that seem to come from across the water, carried by the misty air. At times, these screams sound as though someone is struggling in the water, their fear palpable, while at other moments, the cries are prolonged and mournful, reverberating across the surrounding woods and water in an almost unnatural manner. Hikers, fishermen, and boaters alike have reported stopping in place, unable to pinpoint the source, as the sound drifts closer and then suddenly vanishes. The experience leaves a lingering chill, as if the lake itself is replaying moments of panic and terror from decades past. Faint silhouettes walking on the water are another haunting feature of Elk Lake. Visitors have described seeing dark, human-like forms seemingly gliding across the Lakia-esque surface. Their movements deliberate and unnervingly calm. Swimmers and boaters often report glimpsing these figures out of the corner of their eyes, only for them to vanish when looked at directly. Sometimes the silhouettes appear closer to shore, pacing along areas where currents are shallow, while at other times they seem to move in the middle of the lake, impossibly walking atop the water as if gravity and physics no longer apply. Witnesses describe an immediate sense of unease, an instinctive recognition that these are not ordinary reflections or shadows, but manifestations of lingering spirits tied to the Lakia-esque tragic history. Watercraft moving as if pushed by unseen hands adds another layer to the haunting of Elk Lake. Locals recount moments when small boats or canoes shift against the current or drift across calm waters without wind or human intervention. Anglers have reported feeling a subtle nudge or pull at their vessel, increasing in intensity until it guides them toward docks, shallow areas, or the open lake, only to stop suddenly and without explanation. Swimmers near these moving crafts often feel a light, inexplicable brushing against their legs or arms, as though unseen hands are interacting with them. Many interpret these incidents as the presence of restless spirits, unwilling or unable to leave the water. Physical sensations often accompany the visual and auditory phenomena at Elk Lake. Visitors standing along the shoreline or walking docks report sudden chills, cold spots, and fleeting touches that cannot be attributed to natural causes. Swimmers describe areas of water that feel unusually dense or icy, often coincided with reports of shadowy figures or moving boats. Even when no ghostly forms are visible, there is often a profound sense of being watched, a lingering awareness that the lake is more than a passive body of water. It is a repository of history, tragedy, and residual energy. Local lore attributes these hauntings to drownings and accidents that occurred over generations. Stories tell of young swimmers caught in sudden currents, boaters lost in storms, and families swept away by unpredictable waves. Residents believe that these tragic events have left an indelible mark, embedding energy in the lake that continues to manifest as apparitions, unexplained sounds, and the subtle manipulation of objects on the water. For those visiting after dusk, Elk Lake becomes more than a recreational city. It becomes a space where the past is ever present, replaying moments of fear, struggle, and despair for anyone who dares to approach. Paranormal investigators have recorded activity at Elk Lake extensively. Audio devices capture faint screams, whispers, and unidentifiable splashes. Thermal imaging often reveals cold spots along docks, piers, and the shoreline. EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras sometimes catch fleeting shapes moving beneath the water or just above the surface, consistent with eyewitness accounts of ghostly silhouettes. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during still, foggy nights when environmental sounds are minimal, making every splash, cry, and shadow more pronounced and unsettling. Foggy nights and early morning mists intensify the lake's eerie atmosphere. Low-hanging fog obscures distant areas, softens ambient sounds, and makes shadowy forms appear closer than they are. Screams carry farther across the water, and ghostly silhouettes on the surface seem to shimmer and shift in the haze. Visitors describe a sense of stepping into a threshold between the living and the dead, where the boundary between worlds is thin and fragile, and where past tragedies replay themselves with unnerving clarity. Locals often caution visitors to exercise care when approaching Elk Lake at night. Many avoid swimming, boating, or lingering near the shore after dark. Those who do venture out are advised to remain vigilant. Even brief encounters can involve ghostly figures, unexplained movements of watercraft, and screams echoing through the fog, leaving a lasting impression of the lake's haunting. Elk Lake in Antrim County is more than a scenic expanse of water. Its shadowy swimmers, phantom silhouettes, and boats moved by unseen hands testify to lives lost and the lingering presence of spirits tied to the lake. For those visiting after nightfall, the lake is not merely a natural retreat. It is a place where tragedy endures, where the past reaches into the present, and where the unseen continues to leave an undeniable mark upon the waters. Lake Charlevoix in Charlevoix County stretches across northern Michigan like a sparkling jewel, its waters reflecting the dense forests and rolling hills that line its shores. By day, it is a place of recreation and relaxation, with families swimming in the clear shallows, fishermen casting lines from piers or boats, and kayakers gliding across the calm surface. Yet beneath its serene beauty lies a history marked by tragedy, loss, and inexplicable occurrences. Locals have long whispered of hauntings, particularly in the quieter hours of the evening or on mist-covered mornings, when the lake takes on an otherworldly presence. Visitors often report phenomena that defy explanation. Phantom children playing in the waves, the sounds of screaming parents carried through the mist, and shadowy figures rising from the depths only to vanish moments later. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves the apparitions of children playing in the waves. Witnesses describe small, indistinct forms darting across the water, leaping in and out of the gentle surf, laughing and splashing as though engaged in some timeless game. Swimmers and boaters sometimes report seeing these figures from a distance, only for them to disappear completely when approached. Locals maintain that these are the spirits of children lost to the lake in past accidents, replaying moments of joy and playfulness that were tragically cut short. Even from the shore, visitors often sense movement in the water, subtle ripples or splashes with no discernible source, accompanied by faint laughter that seems both near and impossibly far away. The sounds of screaming parents in the mist are another haunting phenomenon. On foggy mornings or cool, still evenings, witnesses have reported hearing high-pitched cries that carry across the lake, seemingly coming from nowhere. The screams are sometimes desperate, as if someone is calling for help, and at other times they are raw and heart-wrenching, echoing over the water and through the surrounding trees. Hikers along the shoreline, anglers in small boats, and late-night walkers on nearby piers have all described moments of sudden unease when these cries pierce the quiet, leaving a lingering sense of fear and sorrow. Often, the sounds fade as abruptly as they begin, leaving nothing but silence and the gentle lapping of waves to fill the air. Figures rising from the depths add another layer to Lake Charlevoix's haunting. Witnesses describe shadowy shapes emerging just above the waterline, their forms vague and indistinct. Often resembling human silhouettes, these figures vanish instantly as they break the surface. Swimmers occasionally report glimpsing these figures beneath the surface before they rise partially out of the water, only to vanish instantly, leaving behind a trail of ripples and waves. Boaters have recounted seeing forms lifting from the lake in the distance, their presence fleeting but unmistakable, leaving ripples and waves in their wake. These manifestations are often associated with areas of the lake where accidents and drownings occurred in the past. Physical sensations frequently accompany these visual and auditory phenomena. Visitors standing near the water report sudden chills or localized cold spots, even on warm summer evenings. Swimmers sometimes feel a brushing against their legs, as if unseen hands are reaching up from the depths. Boaters report subtle nudges on their vessels, gentle tugs that seem to guide or push them along the water. Even when no apparitions are visible, there is often an unmistakable sense of presence, a feeling that the lake itself is watching and responding to those nearby. Local lore ties these hauntings to a long history of drownings and accidents. Over decades, individuals, families, and children have been claimed by the Lakia. Some lost to sudden storms, others swept away by currents or hidden underwater hazards. Residents believe that the energy of these tragic events lingers, manifesting as laughter, cries, and apparitions. that replay moments of joy, fear, and desperation. Visitors who venture onto the lake after dusk or during foggy mornings find themselves walking into a space where the past is palpable, where echoes of lives lost continue to imprint upon the present. Paranormal investigators have documented the lake's activity over time. Audio devices capture faint laughter, distant screams, and whispers. Thermal imaging often reveals sudden cold spots along docks, piers, and shallow shorelines, while EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras have occasionally captured fleeting silhouettes beneath or above the water, consistent with eyewitness reports of figures rising from the depths. Investigators note that the phenomena are often heightened during calm, still conditions, when the lake's natural sounds are minimal, allowing every splash, cry, and movement to be more pronounced. Fog and mist amplify the haunting at Lake Charlevoix. Low-hanging fog softens visibility, causing shadowy forms to appear closer than they are, and carry sound in ways that make laughter, cries, and other noises seem both near and distant at once. The lake appears ethereal, its surface shimmering with faint reflections, and the figures in the water take on an almost ghostly luminescence. Witnesses describe a sensation of crossing a threshold between worlds. A liminal space where the line between life and death, present and past, is fragile and permeable. Locals often warn visitors to exercise caution at night or during foggy mornings. Many avoid swimming or boating after dark, while those who do venture onto the lake are advised to remain alert. Even brief encounters can involve phantom children, unseen hands guiding boats, or echoes of desperate cries, leaving a lasting impression of the lake's haunting. Lake Charlevoix in Charlevoix County is more than a scenic retreat. Its spectral children, screaming parents, and rising figures testify to lives lost, and the lingering presence of spirits bound to the water. For those visiting after dusk or during the morning mist, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation, it is a haunting space, where tragedy endures, where the past reaches out across the waves, and where the echoes of the lost continue to resonate in the stillness of night. Wallace Lake in Calhoun County sits quietly amid rolling forests and fields, its calm surface often reflecting the sky like a dark mirror. By day, it is a place of fishing, boating, and quiet reflection, with anglers casting lines from its piers, and small boats gliding across the water. Yet beneath the surface of the seemingly peaceful lake lies a history marked by tragedy. During the early 1900s, Wallace Lake became the site of numerous suicides, leaving an indelible mark on the area. Over the decades, locals and visitors have reported a range of unsettling phenomena: ghostly figures emerging from the water, chilling screams carried across the surrounding trees, and unseen hands reaching out to those nearby. The lake, long regarded as a scenic destination, carries an aura of lingering sorrow that manifests in ways both visible and invisible. Witnesses describe pale, indistinct figures rising from the Lochia S depths, appearing as if struggling to reach the surface. These figures are often human-like, though their edges blur and shimmer, as if only partially present in this world. Swimmers and boaters recount seeing forms emerge slowly, their features obscured by mist or shadow, before vanishing suddenly without a trace. Observers on the shore have also described glimpsing figures climbing slowly toward the water S edge, only to disappear as if absorbed back into the lake itself. These figures vanish suddenly without a trace. These manifestations are often associated with the areas where historical suicides occurred, suggesting that the energy of past tragedies has left a lasting imprint upon the waters. Screams echoing over the trees are another hallmark of Wallace Lake's haunting. Local residents report hearing high-pitched, anguished cries that carry across the forested landscape surrounding the water. These screams are sometimes abrupt and terrifying, as though someone is in immediate danger, and at other times, drawn out with a mournful quality, reverberating across the lake and lingering in the silence. Visitors walking along the shoreline, anglers in boats, and hikers passing nearby have all described sudden moments of dread when these sounds pierce the quiet, leaving them frozen in place. The screams often vanish as suddenly as they begin, leaving only an unsettling silence, a reminder of the Lochia S dark history and the lives lost to it. Chilling hands reaching out of the water add another layer of fear to the Lakia-S haunting. Witnesses have reported feeling the sensation of cold, wet fingers brushing against their arms or legs while standing near the shore or wading in shallow areas. Swimmers occasionally describe a tugging motion beneath the surface, as if unseen hands are trying to pull them toward deeper water. Boaters have recounted light tugs on their vessels, subtle at first and then more pronounced, as though guiding them toward specific areas of the lake. These experiences leave an unmistakable impression that the lake itself is alive with the presence of those who never returned, seeking connection with the living in ways that are both chilling and undeniable, that the lake itself is alive with the presence of those who never return, seeking connection with the living in ways that are both chilling and undeniable, that the lake itself is alive with the presence of those who never return, seeking connection with the living in ways that are both chilling and undeniable, that the lake itself is alive with the presence. Physical sensations often accompany the auditory and visual phenomena at Wallace Lake. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots near the shoreline or docks, and the inexplicable feeling of being watched. Even when no apparitions are visible, there is a pervasive sense of unease, an awareness that the lake harbors a lingering presence. Swimmers and boaters describe moments when the water feels unusually dense or heavy in localized areas, coinciding with reports of ghostly figures or unseen tugs on their vessels. These tactile experiences reinforce the haunting, making it clear that Wallace Lake is more than a body of water. It is a repository of residual energy left behind by past tragedies. Local lore attributes the hauntings to the numerous suicides that occurred during the 1900s. Stories tell of individuals who chose the lake as the final place to end their lives, leaving behind grief, despair, and sorrow. Residents believe that the energy from these tragic events has not dissipated, instead manifesting as apparitions, screams, and physical sensations that continue to affect those who come near the water. Visitors at night or during quiet, foggy mornings often find themselves immersed in a space where past and present intermingle, where the echoes of suffering replay themselves, and where unseen presences are palpably near. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Wallace Lake extensively. Audio equipment frequently captures faint screams, whispers, and sound of splashing that cannot be attributed to natural causes. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots near the shore and docks, while EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras have captured fleeting, indistinct figures rising from the water or standing at the shoreline before vanishing. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during periods of stillness, fog, or darkness, when environmental sounds are minimal and every movement, sound, or apparition becomes more pronounced. Foggy evenings intensify the lake's eerie atmosphere. Mist drifts across the water's surface, softening visibility and carrying sound farther than usual, making screams, splashes, and whispers more haunting. Apparitions rising from the water take on a spectral glow in the haze. The sensation of being watched or touched becomes heightened. Visitors often describe the experience as crossing into a threshold between life and death, where the boundary between worlds is fragile and the lingering energy of past tragedies is palpable. Locals often warn visitors to exercise extreme caution near Wallace Lake after dark. Many avoid swimming or boating, while those who do venture near are advised to remain vigilant. Even brief encounters can involve ghostly figures, screams echoing across the trees, or chilling hands reaching from the water, leaving a lasting impression of the Lakia-S haunting. Wallace Lake in Calhoun County is more than a scenic body of water. Its ghostly apparitions, anguished screams, and chilling touches testify to lives lost, and a lingering presence of spirits unable to leave. For those visiting after dark or in the stillness of foggy evenings, the lake is not merely a place of recreation, it is a haunting space, where tragedy endures, where the past reaches into the present, and where the echoes of sorrow continue to resonate across the dark waters. Lake Leelanau in Leelanau County stretches like a ribbon of deep blue water amid the rolling hills and dense forests of northern Michigan. By day, it is a tranquil retreat for fishermen, boaters, and families enjoying the natural beauty of the region. Kayakers glide through its calm coves, anglers cast lines from piers and shorelines, and tourists stroll along the water's edge, taking in the scenic vistas. Yet beneath the serene surface lies a long history of tragedy and unexplained phenomena. Over decades, drownings and boating accidents have claimed lives, and locals insist that the lake has not forgotten them. Visitors after dusk often report unsettling experiences: ghostly lights hovering above the water, faint whispers carried on the wind, and the sense of hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface. Phantom lights are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Lake Leelanau. Witnesses describe small orbs of light that float above the water late at night, often moving slowly across the lake before fading into the darkness. Some lights appear stationary, hovering above particular spots where accidents or drownings occurred, while others drift with no apparent pattern. Boaters have recounted seeing these lights guide their paths across the water, only for the glow to vanish when they approach. Locals interpret these lights as warnings, a way for the spirits of the drowned to alert travelers to hidden currents, submerged hazards, or areas where the water has claimed lives in the past. For those observing from the shore, the lights seem almost otherworldly, casting reflections on the surface that shimmer unnaturally and leaving a lingering sense of unease. Voices of the drowned are another haunting feature of Lake Leelanau. Visitors often report hearing whispers that seem to emanate from the reeds along the shoreline, carried on the gentle night breeze. The voices are faint, barely audible at first, but sometimes grow clearer, repeating warnings such as a stay backa or a danger below a. Hikers, anglers, and boaters alike describe moments when the whispers seem to follow them, shifting in tone and volume as if reacting to their movements. Some claim to hear the sobbing or panic cries of those who drowned long ago, echoing across the water with a chilling realism. Even in the absence of visual phenomena, the auditory experiences are enough to instill fear and caution, reinforcing the impression that the lake itself is alive with lingering spirits. Physical sensations often accompany these spectral manifestations. Visitors along the shoreline report sudden chills or cold spots, sometimes concentrated near piers, docks, or areas where the lake's depth changes abruptly. Swimmers have described the sensation of a light tug or brush against their legs, as if unseen hands are attempting to warn or guide them. Boaters occasionally experience subtle movements in their vessels, small nudges or unexpected rocking that cannot be explained by wind or current. These tactile experiences reinforce the sense that the lake's past tragedies are not simply stories, but residual energy that interacts with the living in a tangible way. Local lore attributes these hauntings to the many lives lost over the Lakia's long history. Families, young adults, and fishermen have succumbed to sudden storms, hidden currents, and accidents that claim lives unexpectedly. Residents believe that these tragedies left a lasting imprint on the water, giving rise to phantom lights, whispered voices, and unexplained sensations reported by modern visitors. The lake is considered a place where the boundary between life and death is thin, where the memories of the drowned replay themselves for anyone who ventures too close at night. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Lake Leelanau over the years. Audio devices frequently pick up faint whispers, cries, or indistinct voices emerging from reeds or the surface of the water. Audio devices frequently pick up faint whispers, cries, or indistinct voices emerging from reeds or the surface of the water. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots near docks and shorelines, while EMF meters often spike unpredictably. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots near docks and shorelines, while EMF meters often spike unpredictably. Cameras sometimes capture fleeting orbs of light hovering above the water, consistent with eyewitness reports. Cameras sometimes capture fleeting orbs of light hovering above the water, consistent with eyewitness reports. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during still, foggy nights or early mornings, when environmental sounds or minimal and visibility is reduced, making every flash of light and every whisper more pronounced and unnerving. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during still, foggy nights or early mornings, when environmental sounds or minimal and visibility is reduced, making every flash of light and every whisper more pronounced and unnerving. Foggy evenings amplify the haunting atmosphere. Low-hanging mist drifts across the lake, reducing visibility and softening natural sounds, making phantom lights appear brighter and more mobile. Whispers carried through the reeds seem closer, their origin impossible to locate, and the subtle movements of boats or watercraft become more pronounced. Visitors describe a sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where past and present converge, and where the echoes of tragedy are tangible in both sound and sight. Locals frequently advise caution when near Lake Leelanau after dark. Swimming, boating, or lingering along the shore is often discouraged, particularly in foggy or quiet conditions. Those who do venture onto the water at night report that even brief encounters with lights, whispers, or unexplained sensations leave a lasting impression of the Lochia-S haunting. Lake Leelanau in Leelanau County is more than a scenic body of water. Its hovering phantom lights, whispered warnings, and subtle physical manifestations testify to lives lost and the enduring presence of those who never returned. For anyone visiting after dusk or during misty nights, the lake is not merely a place of recreation. It is a hauntingly alive space where tragedy persists, where the past reaches into the present, and where the voices of the drowned continue to warn and guide those who wander too close to the water's edge. Silver Lake in Oceana County lies nestled among dense forests and gently rolling hills of western Michigan, its calm waters glimmering under the sun and reflecting the surrounding landscape. By day, the lake is a haven for recreational activities. Families picnic along its sandy shores, anglers cast lines from docks and boats, and kayakers quietly explore its secluded coves. Anglers cast lines from docks and boats, and kayakers quietly explore its secluded coves. Yet when night falls, Silver Lake transforms into a place of mystery and unease. Over decades, locals have reported ghostly phenomena that defy explanation, making it infamous among residents and visitors alike. Phantom swimmers, eerie screams carried on the wind, and boats that rock as if guided by invisible hands are among the most frequently reported occurrences, giving the lake a chilling reputation that persists to this day. Phantom swimmers are one of the most common and unnerving phenomena reported at Silver Lake. Witnesses describe shadowy figures gliding beneath the water's surface under the light of the moon, sometimes near the shoreline, other times farther out where the water is deep. Observers often see these forms moving in ways that seem almost deliberate, pausing or turning as if aware of nearby human presence. Boaters and swimmers alike have recounted moments when they glimpse shapes beneath their vessels or just beneath the surface, only for them to vanish when approached directly. Some locals believe these figures are the spirits of those who drowned in the lake years ago. They replay the act of swimming in a place that became their final resting spot. Visitors have reported seeing ripples and splashes without cause, suggesting that the phantom swimmers continue to traverse the lake. Even from the shore, visitors have reported seeing the phantom swimmers, unseen yet unmistakably present. Screams carried on the wind add a haunting auditory dimension to the Lochia-S phenomena. On quiet nights, especially during still or foggy conditions, witnesses have reported hearing high-pitched, anguished cries echoing across the water. These sounds are sometimes sudden and sharp, as if someone is in immediate peril, while at other times they are long, mournful wails that seem to stretch across the trees and shoreline. Hikers, anglers, and late-night visitors frequently describe a feeling of dread accompanying the cries, as though the emotions of the past are being projected into the present. The screams often fade as abruptly as they began, leaving only the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. Yet the memory of hearing them lingers long after. The wind carries them away. Yet the memory of hearing them lingers long after the wind carries them away. Boats rocking as if someone were aboard is another chilling phenomenon reported at Silver Lake. Visitors in small vessels have experienced subtle movements, slight sways, and occasional rocking that cannot be explained by wind or currents. In some cases, the movement begins gradually, as if the boat is being pushed or nudged, and then increases in intensity, stopping suddenly with no apparent cause. Swimmers nearby sometimes report feeling a light brush against their legs or the sensation of unseen hands interacting with the boat. These incidents often occur in areas associated with past drownings or accidents, reinforcing the belief that the lake harbors the spirits of those who never left its waters. Physical sensations often accompany these visual and auditory phenomena. Visitors standing along the shore report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots, and the unnerving feeling of being watched. Swimmers describe areas of water that feel denser, or unexplained boat movements. Even when no apparitions or sounds are evident, there is a palpable sense that the lake is alive with lingering energy, subtly interacting with those nearby, leaving them with a lasting impression of unease. Local lore attributes a haunting to the many lives lost in Silver Lake over the years. Stories of drowning accidents, boating mishaps, and individuals lost in the water have been passed down for generations. Residents insist that these tragedies left residual energy in the lake, manifesting in phantom swimmers, unexplained boat movements, and cries echoing across the water. Visitors who come after dusk often find themselves in a space where the boundary between life and death feels thin, and where the echoes of past tragedies replay themselves in ways both visible and audible. Audio equipment frequently picks up faint splashes, whispers, or distant cries, while EMF meters spike unpredictably, consistent with eyewitness accounts of phantom swimmers, making every splash, ripple, or whisper more pronounced and unnerving. Foggy nights intensify the haunting atmosphere. Mist drifts across the lake, obscuring visibility and softening ambient sounds, which causes phantom swimmers to appear closer and lights or ripples on the water to shimmer unnaturally. Screams carried on the wind seem amplified, and the subtle movements of boats become more pronounced. Visitors often describe the sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where the past and present intersect, and where unseen presences are tangible, lingering just beneath the surface or floating invisibly above the water. Locals advise caution when visiting Silver Lake after dark. Swimming, boating, or lingering along the shore is often discouraged, particularly on foggy nights or when the water is calm. Even brief encounters with phantom swimmers, ghostly cries, or boats moving inexplicably leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the Lakia-esque reputation as a haunting space. Silver Lake in Oceana County is more than a tranquil body of water. It's phantom swimmers, screams on the wind, and boats moved by unseen hands testify to lives lost and lingering presences that have not departed. For those visiting after dusk, the lake is not merely a site for recreation, it is a hauntingly alive space, where tragedy endures, the past reaches into the present, and the invisible continues to interact with the living across its dark, reflective waters. Burt Lake in Sheboygan County stretches across northern Michigan, its vast waters framed by forests and rolling hills. In warmer months, it is a haven for boating, fishing, and swimming, attracting families, anglers, and outdoor enthusiasts. Yet, when winter descends and ice forms over the Lakia-esque surface, Burt Lake transforms into a place of mystery and unease. Locals speak of ghostly phenomena that defy explanation. Shadowy figures walking on the frozen ice, faint cries for help carried across the wind, and screams echoing eerily over the lake during foggy nights. These reports have persisted for generations, leaving the lake with a reputation as one of the most haunted in the region. One of the most striking phenomena involves ghostly figures walking along the frozen surface. Residents recount seeing dark, human-like shapes moving across the ice, often in areas far from the shoreline. Observers describe these figures as translucent, their edges blurred, giving the impression that they are only partially anchored in this world. Sometimes the figures appear to be walking with purpose, pausing or glancing in the direction of onlookers, then vanishing suddenly as if absorbed back into the frozen expanse. Ice fishermen and late-night walkers occasionally report noticing footprints in fresh snow atop the ice, only to find that no one was present to make them. These apparitions are often associated with historical drownings or tragedies on the lake, and locals believe that the energy of those lost continues to manifest on the ice during the long winter months. Faint cries for help are another common occurrence. During foggy or silent nights, visitors have reported hearing high-pitched, desperate calls carried across the frozen lake. These sounds sometimes seem to come from beneath the ice or drifting along the surface, their origin impossible to locate. Witnesses describe the voices as chilling yet sorrowful, like echoes from the past, replaying moments of panic and fear. Hikers along the shore, fishermen alone on the ice, and passers-by have all recounted sudden moments of unease when these cries pierce the stillness, leaving them frozen in place with a sense of impending danger. The cries often fade abruptly, leaving only silence and the occasional groan of the ice. Yet the experience lingers, imprinting a sense of the lake's restless energy on all who hear them. Screams echoing across the lake on foggy nights further heighten Burt Lake's reputation for hauntings. Unlike the faint cries, these screams are sudden, loud, and terrifying, reverberating through the trees and across the frozen expanse of the water. Witnesses often describe a sudden drop in temperature when the screams occur, a biting cold that raises goosebumps along the skin. Swimmers and boaters in warmer seasons report hearing similar screams when fog rolls in over the water, suggesting that the phenomenon is not limited to winter. These auditory manifestations have led many to believe that the spirits of those who perished on the lake are restless, their fear and anguish replaying. For anyone who dares to venture near after dusk, physical sensations often accompany the visual and auditory experiences. Walkers on the ice report sudden cold spots that cannot be explained by wind or ambient temperature. Some describe the sensation of being brushed by unseen hands or nudged lightly by a force that seems to move with intention. Anglers have felt equipment shift unexpectedly, rods tipping, or boats moving slightly despite still waters. These tactile experiences reinforce the impression that the lake is alive with residual energy, a presence that interacts with the living in subtle but unmistakable ways. Local lore attributes these hauntings to the Lakia's long history of drownings and tragic accidents. Over the decades, individuals venturing onto the Lakia, whether ice fishermen, swimmers, or boaters, have been claimed by its waters or icy surface. Residents believe that the spirits of those lost are bound to Burt Lake, manifesting in the forms of ghostly walkers, cries for help, and screams that echo across the water. Visitors after dark or during heavy fog often report that the boundary between past and present feels thin, and that the Lakia's tragic history is palpable in the cold, silent air. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Burt Lake extensively. Audio equipment captures faint cries, whispers, and occasional screams, often come from areas with no human presence. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots on the ice and along the shore. EMF meters spike unpredictably. Cameras have occasionally captured fleeting shadows moving across the ice or just above the water, consistent with eyewitness accounts of ghostly figures. Investigators note that these phenomena are particularly pronounced on calm, foggy nights when environmental sounds are minimal, allowing every movement, ripple, or whisper to stand out unnervingly. Fog and mist amplify the Lakia's eerie presence. Low-hanging fog drifts over the surface, obscuring visibility and softening natural sounds, making ghostly walkers appear closer than they are, and cries seem to emanate from multiple directions. The lake seems suspended in a liminal space where time slows and the past feels present, creating an atmosphere of heightened tension and unease. Locals often advise caution when venturing onto Burt Lake during winter or foggy nights. Even brief encounters with ghostly figures, faint cries, or echoes of screams leave a lasting impression. Swimming, boating, or walking across the frozen lake at night is discouraged, as the Lakia's haunting presence is not merely a story, it is an experience that reaches out to the living. Burt Lake in Sheboygan County is more than a scenic destination. Its ghostly figures, cries for help, and screams echoing over foggy nights testify to lives lost, and the lingering presence of spirits bound to the water. For those visiting after dusk or during winter mists, the lake is not merely a place for recreation, it is where the past reaches into the present, and where the echoes of the lost continue to ripple across ice and water alike. Crooked Lake in Emmett County, Michigan, is a sprawling body of water nestled among dense forests and rolling hills, its surface reflecting the surrounding landscape like a dark mirror. By day, it is a haven for recreational activity, drawing fishermen, kayakers, and families seeking quiet respite along its shores. The Lakia-esque winding contours, coves, and inlets create a picturesque setting that seems peaceful and inviting. Yet beneath this calm exterior lies a history marked by tragedy and mystery. For decades, locals and visitors have reported strange and unexplained occurrences of shadowy figures swimming beneath boats, disembodied voices calling from the water, and splashes in the dead of night that have no visible source. Crooked Lake has earned a reputation as a haunted place, where the living are reminded of the lingering presence of the past. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves shadowy forms swimming beneath boats. Anglers, kayakers, and late-night boaters often describe noticing vague, human-like shapes moving under their vessels. The forms are usually indistinct, appearing dark and blurred beneath the water as surface, but their movements are deliberate, as if they are aware of nearby observers. Some visitors describe these figures rising briefly toward the surface, their outlines shimmering in the moonlight, before vanishing back into the depths. Witnesses often associate these sightings with areas of the lake where drownings or accidents occurred, believing that the shadows are the restless spirits of those who never left the water. Disembodied voices calling from the water add a haunting auditory element. On quiet nights, especially when fog rolls in, witnesses report hearing faint calls, whispers, or cries emanating from the lake itself. The voices are often distant, carrying across the surface and fading into the surrounding trees, yet they seem purposeful, sometimes repeating names or calling for help. Anglers and boaters have reported being unable to locate the source, the sound drifting eerily across the water and leaving a lingering sense of unease. Locals insist that these voices are the echoes of past tragedies, residual energy from individuals who perished in the lake, warning or reaching out to those who venture too close after dark. Unexplained splashes in the dead of night are another unsettling feature of Crooked Lake. Visitors often hear sudden, loud plops or ripples breaking the stillness of the water, seemingly without cause. Swimmers have recounted seeing the water churn in areas far from the shore, while boaters describe feeling the wake of unseen movements brushing against their hulls. Sometimes the splashes coincide with reports of shadowy forms or voices, amplifying the sense of a supernatural presence. Even from the shoreline, the water can appear to move as if disturbed by invisible hands, creating ripples and waves that have no natural explanation. Physical sensations often accompany these visual and auditory experiences. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots along docks and shorelines, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Swimmers sometimes feel brushes against their arms or legs, as if unseen hands are reaching from below. Boaters have described subtle nudges that seem to guide or push their vessels in certain directions. These sensations reinforce the impression that Crooked Lake is alive with residual energy, where the boundary between the living and the spirits of the past is thin and permeable. Local lore ties the haunting to a long history of drownings and boating accidents. Over the decades, countless individuals and families have been claimed by the lake's unpredictable currents, sudden storms, or hidden underwater hazards. Residents believe that the spirits of those lost remain tied to the water, manifesting as shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and unexplained splashes. For visitors venturing onto the lake after dark, the sense of history becomes tangible. The presence of the departed feels immediate and inescapable. Paranormal investigators have documented the activity at Crooked Lake. Audio equipment frequently captures faint whispers, cries, or voices that cannot be attributed to wind or wildlife. Thermal imaging reveals cold spots along docks, piers, and shallow shorelines, while EMF meters spike unpredictably in areas associated with past drownings. Cameras sometimes capture fleeting shadows beneath or just above the water's surface, consistent with eyewitness accounts. Investigators note that the phenomena are often most pronounced during calm, foggy nights, when the lake is still and every splash, ripple, or sound is magnified. Fog and mist heighten the Lakia's haunting presence. Low-hanging fog drifts across the surface, obscuring visibility and softening ambient noises, making shadowy figures appear closer and voices seem to originate from multiple directions. Low-hanging fog drifts across the surface, obscuring visibility and softening ambient noises, making shadowy figures appear closer and voices seem to originate from multiple directions. Observing visibility and softening ambient noises, making shadowy figures appear closer and voices seem to originate from multiple directions. Making shadowy figures appear closer and voices seem to originate from multiple directions. And voices seem to originate from multiple directions. Ripples in the water and sudden splashes become more pronounced, amplifying a feeling of unease. Visitors describe the sensation of stepping into a threshold between worlds, where past and present converge, and where the Lakia's tragic history becomes palpable. Where past and present converge, and where the Lakia's tragic history becomes palpable. And where the Lakia's tragic history becomes palpable. Visitors describe a sensation of stepping into a threshold between worlds, where past and present converge, and where the Lakia's tragic history becomes palpable. Locals often warn visitors to exercise caution when approaching Crooked Lake after dusk. Swimming, boating, or lingering near the water at night is discouraged, particularly during foggy conditions. Even brief encounters with shadowy figures, disembodied voices, or unexplained splashes leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the Lakia's reputation as a place where the past continues to reach into the present. Crooked Lake in Emmett County is more than a tranquil body of water. Its shadowy swimmers, eerie voices, and unexplained splashes testify to lives lost, and the lingering presence of spirits tied to the lake. For those visiting after dark, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation. It is a haunting space where tragedy endures, where echoes of the past ripple across the water, and where the unseen continues to make itself felt, drawing the living into a dialogue with the spirits of those who never returned. Lake Gogebic, the largest natural inland lake in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, stretches across Gogebic County like a dark, reflective mirror amid dense forests and rolling hills. By day, it is a haven for fishermen, kayakers, and nature enthusiasts, its calm waters dotted with boats and shimmering in the sunlight. Yet beneath its serene surface lies a history marked by sudden storms, tragedies, and unexplained phenomena that have left a lasting impression on the area. Locals and visitors alike recount encounters that defy logic. Phantom lights hovering over the water, anguished screams echoing across the waves, and shadowy figures rising briefly before vanishing into the darkness. These occurrences have given Lake Gogebic a reputation as one of the region's most haunted and mysterious lakes, where the past continues to reach into the present. Phantom lights are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Witnesses describe small, flickering orbs that drift above the water at night, often appearing in areas where sudden storms have claimed the lives of fishermen or boaters in the past. The lights sometimes move slowly along the surface, hovering for moments before fading entirely, leaving observers uncertain whether what they saw was real or a trick of the eye. Boaters have recounted following the lights, only to find them vanish without warning, while others observe them from the shoreline, their glow reflected eerily across the Lakia's dark surface. Locals suggest that these lights are not mere curiosities, they are warnings, a spectral signal from the spirits of those lost, guiding or cautioning travelers against hidden dangers in the water. Screams echoing across the waves are another haunting aspect of Lake Gogebic. During calm evenings or after sudden shifts in weather, visitors report hearing high-pitched, anguished cries carried across the lake. These screams often seem to come from nowhere, yet they resonate with an unsettling realism, as if someone is calling for help in the distance. Anglers and boaters have described moments when the cries appear to follow their movements, growing louder as they approach and fading abruptly when the source is sought. Locals believe these sounds are remnants of the storms that took lives over the decades. The panic and terror of those lost replaying across the water for anyone near after dark. The auditory phenomenon creates a sense of dread, leaving witnesses frozen in place as the echoes fade, lingering in the air and in memory long after the initial scream. Shadowy figures rising from the lake add a chilling visual element. Witnesses often report seeing dark, indistinct shapes emerge briefly above a waterline, as if struggling to reach the surface, before disappearing into the darkness. These forms are human-like but blurred at the edges, appearing partially anchored in the world of the living. Swimmers and boaters have described glimpsing such figures from a distance, only to have them vanish when approached. Shoreline observers have reported seeing silhouettes rising in the mist, lingering momentarily before dissolving into fog or the darkness of the night. Many associate these figures with fishermen and travelers lost in storms over the years, their energy lingering as residual hauntings that replay moments of struggle and fear. Physical sensations often accompany these phenomena. Visitors on boats or along the shore report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that seem to linger in specific areas, and the sensation of being watched. Visitors on boats or along the shore report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that seem to linger in specific areas, and the sensation of being watched. Swimmers sometimes feel brushing against their legs, subtle tugs or nudges, as if unseen hands interact with them. Boaters occasionally notice their vessels moving inexplicably, tilting slightly or rocking in place, even when no wind or current is present. These tactile encounters enhance the sense that Lake Gogebic is more than just water. It is a living memory of the tragedies that occurred upon its surface. Local lore attributes these hauntings to the many fishermen and travelers lost in sudden storms over the decades. Families, adventurers, and locals venturing onto the lake have been claimed unexpectedly by turbulent weather, hidden currents, and submerged hazards. Residents believe that their spirits remain tied to the lake, manifesting through lights, cries, and figures, particularly during evenings or nights with low visibility. For those who venture onto the lake after dark, the sense of history becomes tangible. The presence of the past is immediate, and the air feels heavy with the memory of those who never returned. The presence of the past is immediate, and the air feels heavy with the memory of those who never returned. Audio recordings capture faint cries, whispers, or moans, often without an identifiable source, and near areas where fishermen have historically gone missing. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting shadows rising from the water. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during calm nights, when ambient noise is minimal and the lake's restless energy can manifest more freely. Foggy nights and mist intensify the lake's haunting presence. Low-hanging fog softens visibility and distorts sound, making phantom lights appear closer, voices carry farther, and shadowy figures more tangible. Observers describe the sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where the boundary between life and death feels fragile, and where the echoes of tragedy replay across water and air. Locals advise caution for visitors after dark. Swimming, boating, or lingering along the shore is discouraged, particularly on foggy nights or following storms. Even brief encounters with lights, cries, or figures leave a lasting impression, emphasizing the Lakia-esque reputation as a place where tragedy endures. Lake Gogebic in Gogebic County is more than a scenic retreat. Its phantom lights, screams across the waves, and shadowy figures rising from the water testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those visiting after dusk or during foggy nights, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation. It is a hauntingly alive space where the past reaches into the present, and the unseen continues to make itself felt across the dark, reflective waters. Round Lake in Clare County, Michigan, lies surrounded by dense forests and gently rolling hills, its tranquil waters inviting visitors year-round for boating, fishing, and winter ice activities. During the warmer months, the lake is a picturesque retreat for families and anglers. But come winter, Round Lake transforms into a place of quiet danger and lingering mystery. The lake is notorious for accidents during ice fishing, and locals speak of unexplained phenomena that suggest the spirits of those lost have never left. Visitors report ghostly faces emerging from the icy water, sudden waves breaking through the ice, phantom screams carried across the frozen expanse by the wind. Earned Round Lake a reputation as one of the region's most enigmatic and unsettling bodies of water. One of the most chilling phenomena reported involves faces appearing above or through the icy surface. Locals recount instances of anglers and winter visitors spotting pale, human-like faces staring out from beneath the icy surface. Witnesses describe moments when the faces seem to follow them, appearing closer with each glance, before vanishing without warning. Ice fishermen tell seeing a sudden ripple in a previously still patch of ice, revealing the brief outline of a persona's head or shoulders, only for it to disappear into the opaque water below. Unexplained waves breaking through the ice are another common feature of Round Lake's hauntings. During the dead of night, visitors report hearing loud cracking or splashing sounds as sudden waves rise beneath the ice, often in areas where the surface seems solid and untouched. Ice fishermen and walkers on a frozen lake have experienced moments when the ice trembles, sometimes accompanied by an eerie vibration underfoot, suggesting the movement of unseen forces beneath. Even when no wind or current is present, these waves and tremors create a sense that the lake itself is alive, subtly reminding visitors of the accidents and tragedies that have occurred over the years. The unpredictability of these movements contributes to the Lake's reputation as a place where danger and the supernatural intertwine. Phantom screams carried on the wind are another chilling aspect of Round Lake. During calm, silent nights, locals and visitors alike report hearing high-pitched cries echoing across the frozen lake. These sounds are sudden and piercing, often growing louder as they travel before fading just as abruptly. Some witnesses describe the screams as desperate pleas for help, while others hear them as anguished wails, filled with sorrow and terror. Hikers along the shoreline or anglers returning from the ice recount moments of freezing stillness when the sound of distant screams sends shivers down their spines. The phenomenon is particularly pronounced during foggy or moonlit nights, when the eerie quality of the sound seems amplified, carrying across the still landscape and giving the impression that the past is pressing into the present. Physical sensations often accompany these auditory and visual phenomena. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature near certain areas of the ice, icy gusts that seem localized, and the unnerving feeling of being watched. Ice fishermen have described subtle tugs on their equipment, rods shifting slightly as if touched by invisible hands. Some walkers have felt a chilling brush along their arms or legs, a cold presence that passes as quickly as it arrives but leaves an indelible impression. These tactile encounters reinforce the sense that Round Lake is more than a frozen body of water. Local lore attributes these hauntings to a long history of winter accidents on Round Lake. Over the decades, individuals venturing onto the ice have fallen through unexpectedly, sometimes claiming their lives. Families, fishermen, and adventurous travelers have all been victims, leaving behind a legacy of grief and residual energy. Residents insist that these spirits continue to manifest during winter, especially when the lake is frozen and quiet, replaying moments of panic, fear, and desperation for anyone who happens to be nearby. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Round Lake extensively. Audio recordings capture faint screams, cries, and whispers over areas of frozen water. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots on ice patches and along the shoreline, while EMF meters spike unpredictably near regions associated with past accidents. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting, indistinct faces emerging from the ice or mist above the lake, consistent with eyewitness accounts. Investigators note that the phenomena are most pronounced during still, foggy nights when environmental noise is minimal and the presence of the past can manifest more freely. Foggy evenings intensify the lake's eerie atmosphere. Low-hanging mist drifts across the ice, obscuring visibility. Amplifying ambient sounds, making phantom faces appear closer. Cries seem to come from multiple directions, waves breaking the ice more pronounced. Observers describe the sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where the boundary between the living and the spirits of the lost is fragile, and where the weight of past tragedies is palpable in the cold air. Locals warn visitors to exercise caution during winter, particularly after dark. Walking, ice fishing, or lingering on a frozen surface is discouraged, especially in foggy or quiet conditions. Encounters with ghostly faces, unexplained waves, or phantom screams leave lasting impressions, reinforcing the Loch Ness reputation as a haunting space where past tragedies continue to echo. Round Lake in Clare County is more than a winter recreational site. Its ghostly faces, waves breaking through ice, and screams carried on the wind testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those visiting after dusk or during foggy winter nights, the lake is not merely a place for activity, it is a haunting space where tragedy endures, the past reaches into the present, and the echoes of those lost continue to ripple across ice and water alike. Big Lake in Muskegon County, Michigan, lies cradled among thick forests and gently rolling hills, its wide expanse of water reflecting the sky like a dark, shimmering mirror. By day, it is a haven for fishing, boating, and nature enthusiasts, offering calm waters for kayakers and small vessels, and quiet shorelines for families and hikers. Yet when night falls, Big Lake takes on an entirely different character. Over decades, visitors and locals alike have reported eerie phenomena. Shadowy figures waiting near the shore, cold hands gripping boats as if unseen forces reach out from the water, and anguished screams echoing across the lake during the stillness of night. These experiences have earned Big Lake a reputation as one of the region's most haunted and mysterious bodies of water. Shadowy figures along the shoreline are among the most commonly reported occurrences. Witnesses describe dark, indistinct shapes moving through the shallow waters, sometimes standing motionless as if observing nearby activity. At times, the forms appear partially transparent, their edges blurred, giving them an otherworldly quality. Visitors often see them just beyond the reach of lamplight or moonlight, fading into the night when approached. Fishermen and hikers report feeling sudden chills as they glimpse the figures, followed by the sense that the presence continues to linger nearby even after the shapes vanish. Many locals believe these wraith-like forms are the spirits of individuals who drowned or disappeared in the lake over the years, lingering along the shore where their lives were claimed. Cold hands gripping boats are another unsettling phenomenon reported by those who venture onto the lake after dark. Boaters describe subtle, inexplicable movements as if invisible fingers reach up to steady or push their vessels. Some recount feeling a sudden brush along their arms or legs while navigating the water, as though something beneath the surface is interacting with them directly. In several cases, boats have rocked or shifted despite calm conditions, with no wind or current to explain the motion. Swimmers report similar sensations, feeling icy hands brush against their legs or arms before quickly disappearing. These tactile encounters contribute to the impression that Big Lake is alive, with lingering energy and invisible presence that continues to interact with the living in subtle but undeniable ways. Screams echoing across the water are another chilling feature of Big Lake. During quiet nights, particularly on still or foggy evenings, witnesses have reported high-pitched, anguished cries carried over the surface. The sounds often start suddenly, cutting through the night with startling clarity, and then fade into silence, leaving only the lapping of the water and the rustling of trees along the shore. Some hear multiple voices, as if several lost souls are calling at once, their cries overlapping in a haunting chorus. Locals believe these screams are echoes of past tragedies of drownings, accidents, and losses that occurred over decades, and that the energy of those lost continues to replay their final moments, reaching out to anyone who ventures onto the lake after dark. Drownings, accidents, and losses that occurred over decades, and that the energy of those lost continues to replay their final moments, reaching out to anyone who ventures onto the lake after dark. and that the energy of those lost continues to replay their final moments, reaching out to anyone who ventures onto the lake after dark. Reaching out to anyone who ventures onto the lake after dark. Locals believe these screams are echoes of past tragedies. Physical sensations often accompany these auditory and visual experiences. Visitors along the shoreline report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that seem to linger in particular areas, and a persistent feeling of being watched. Boaters describe the sensation of subtle nudges or resistance in the water, as if unseen hands are interacting with their vessel. Swimmers sometimes feel a chilling brush across their skin, leaving a lingering awareness of unseen presence. These experiences, combined with the shadowy figures and screams, create a deeply unsettling atmosphere that permeates the lake during nighttime hours. Local lore attributes these hauntings to Big Lake's long history of accidents and disappearances. Over the decades, individuals and families venturing onto the lake have been claimed unexpectedly by cold currents, hidden underwater hazards, or sudden weather changes. Residents maintain that the spirits of those lost remain tied to the lake, manifesting in forms visible, audible, and even tactile, particularly after dark or on foggy nights. The boundary between the living and the lost feels thin, and the present of the past is tangible, pressing down upon the water and shoreline. For visitors, the presence of the past is tangible, pressing down upon the water and shoreline. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Big Lake extensively. Audio recordings capture faint cries, whispers, and occasional screams originating from areas with no human presence. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots along docks, shorelines, and shallow waters. EMF meters often spike unpredictably. Cameras occasionally record fleeting, dark shapes waiting near the shore or moving just beneath the surface of the water, consistent with eyewitness accounts of shadowy figures. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced on quiet nights when the lake is still, fog is present, or moonlight casts a muted glow across the surface, amplifying every movement, sound, and ripple. Foggy evenings heighten the haunting atmosphere. Low-lying mist drifts across the water, obscuring visibility and carrying sounds farther across the lake. Shadowy figures appear closer. Cries seem to come from multiple directions, and boats may feel heavier or more difficult to control. Cries seem to come from multiple directions, and boats may feel heavier or more difficult to control. Boats may feel heavier or more difficult to control. Observers describe a sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where the living interact with the remnants of past tragedy, and where the lake seems to replay moments of fear, panic, and loss. Where the living interact with the remnants of past tragedy, and where the lake seems to replay moments of fear, panic, and loss. And where the lake seems to replay moments of fear, panic, and loss. Locals frequently advise caution when visiting Big Lake at night. Swimming, boating, or lingering near the shore after dusk is discouraged, particularly during fog or still nights. Even brief encounters with shadowy figures, cold touches, or ghostly screams leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the Lakia-esque reputation as a place where tragedy endures. Big Lake in Muskegon County is more than a scenic body of water. Its waiting figures, icy grips on boats, and cries echoing across the waves testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those who venture onto the lake after dark, it is not merely a place of recreation. It is a haunting space where the past reaches into present, and where the unseen continues to make itself felt across dark, reflective waters. Little Traverse Lake in Emmett County, Michigan, stretches quietly amid dense forests and gently rolling hills, its calm waters reflecting the sky and surrounding landscape. By day, it is a haven for fishermen, kayakers, and families enjoying the serene shoreline. But beneath this picturesque surface lies a history marked by tragedy. Over the years, several children have drowned in the lake, and locals say their spirits never truly left. Visitors frequently report unusual activity along the Sharia, ghostly children playing in the sand or water, only for their innocent laughter to suddenly turn into terrified screaming. The lake has developed a reputation as a hauntingly active site, where the past and present seem to coexist. The most commonly reported phenomenon involved the apparitions of children near the shoreline. Witnesses describe seeing small, translucent figures near the shoreline. Witnesses describe the children as wearing old-fashioned clothing. Witnesses describe the children as wearing old-fashioned clothing, sometimes soaked as though they had just emerged from the water. Witnesses describe the children as wearing old-fashioned clothing, sometimes soaked as though they had just emerged from the water. These figures seem unaware of adult observers at first. Engrossed in their play, they toss imaginary balls or skip stones. The peacefulness of these visions is often shattered. Without warning, the children's laughter turns high-pitched and panicked, echoing across the lake as if something unseen has frightened them. Observers describe feeling a sudden chill, the wind picking up, and an overwhelming sense of dread as the screaming continues for a few heart-pounding moments before fading into silence. Sounds are a significant part of the haunting at Little Traverse Lake. Even when no one is visible, visitors report hearing the giggles of children, soft footsteps on the shore, and occasional splashing of water, as if Summonia or Somthinga is moving just beneath the surface. These auditory manifestations often escalate into sudden, ear-piercing screams that seem to come from multiple directions at once. The cries are not continuous, but when they occur, they leave witnesses frozen in place, hearts racing, unable to locate their source. Locals believe these sounds are echoes of past tragedies, memories of children relived over and over, their fear and panic lingering in the air. Shadowy movements along the water further add to the lake's eerie reputation. Some visitors report glimpsing figures darting between trees or vanishing into the lake just beyond reach. Swimmers occasionally feel a sudden brush against their legs or see ripples on the water's surface with no apparent source. Boats left docked at night sometimes rock gently without wind or current, reinforcing the idea that unseen forces are present. Those who linger along the shoreline after dark often describe a persistent sensation of being watched, as though the spirits are aware of their presence. Physical sensations frequently accompany these visual and auditory experiences. Witnesses report sudden drops in temperature, localized cold spots near the shoreline, and a heavy, almost tangible atmosphere that presses down on the senses. Some describe feeling a tug on their clothing or a brush against their skin, fleeting touches that disappear before they can be fully understood. These interactions create a deeply unsettling experience, leaving a lasting impression of a place where the boundary between the living and the lost is thin. Local legends tie the hauntings directly to the tragic drownings that occurred over the decades. Families and children who fell victim to accidents in the lake are said to leave behind lingering energy, replaying the moments of their fear and distress. Many of the apparitions appear to be reenactments of past play, interrupted by sudden danger. Residents of the surrounding area often warn visitors, especially those with children, to exercise caution after dark, emphasizing that the lake's haunted reputation is not merely superstition, but a history that seems to live on in spectral form. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Little Traverse Lake extensively. Audio recordings capture faint giggles, screams, and soft splashes with no identifiable source. Thermal imaging shows localized cold spots along the shore, and EMF readings spike unpredictably in certain areas. Cameras have occasionally captured fleeting, translucent figures moving along the sand or emerging from the water, consistent with eyewitness reports. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during calm, foggy nights, when environmental sounds are minimal and the Lockheed-esque lingering energy can manifest more clearly. Fog and mist amplify the haunting experience. Low-hanging fog drifts across the water, softening visibility, and making distant sounds carry farther. Ghostly figures seem to move closer, and the laughter and screams echo with surreal clarity. Observers describe an intense sense of stepping into a threshold, where the living encounter the past, where the boundary between life and death is fragile, and where the echoes of tragedy replay with vivid intensity. Locals often caution visitors to avoid lingering along the shoreline after dark. Swimming, boating, or even walking the edges of the lake at night is discouraged. Encounters with apparitions, sudden laughter turning to screams, or unseen splashes leave lasting impressions, reinforcing the Lockyer-esque reputation as a place of both beauty and lingering sorrow. Little Traverse Lake in Emmett County is more than a peaceful retreat. Its spectral children, sudden screams, and shadowy movements testify to lives lost and spirits that linger for those who venture along its shores after dusk. The lake is not just a destination for recreation, it is a hauntingly alive space where the past reaches into the present, and the laughter and terror of lost children continue to echo across the water. Higgins Lake in Roscommon County, Michigan, is a pristine body of water renowned for its clear, deep waters and scenic pine-covered shoreline. By day, it draws anglers, boaters, and families seeking the tranquility of its sandy beaches and forested surroundings. Yet beneath this idyllic exterior lies a history tinged with tragedy and mystery. Locals and visitors alike have reported strange occurrences that suggest the presence of spirits and unexplained forces. Accounts describe rowboats moving on their own across calm waters, shadowy figures emerging from the lake at night, and anguished screams echoing from the surrounding pine forests. These phenomena have earned Higgins Lake a reputation as one of Michigan's most haunted lakes, a place where the past seems to reach into the present in both subtle and startling ways. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves rowboats gliding across the water without human guidance. Visitors recount moments when their boats, left untended at docks or anchored near the shore, begin to move silently as if propelled by invisible hands. Some describe watching their vessels slowly drift across the lake, bobbing over gentle waves, only to stop abruptly as if reaching an unseen boundary. In other cases, fishermen report rowboats shifting position or tilting unexpectedly, leaving them feeling an inexplicable sense of unease. The movement is often accompanied by a faint, chill breeze that seems localized, brushing over the water as if the spirits of the lake are active and aware of the living nearby. Figures emerging from the lake add a chilling visual component to the hauntings. Witnesses frequently describe shadowy human-like forms rising from the water, appearing briefly before sinking back into the darkness. These figures are usually indistinct, sometimes outlined against a moonlit surface, other times partially obscured by fog or mist. Boaters and shoreline observers alike report feeling the gaze of unseen eyes, a sense of presence that lingers long after the figure disappears. Swimmers recount sudden brushes against legs or arms, fleeting touches that leave a cold, lingering sensation. Many locals believe these apparitions are the spirits of those who perished in the lake over the decades, returning to the surface to interact with the living or to relive moments of their final struggles. Screams echoing from the surrounding pine forests are another eerie aspect of Higgins Lake. During quiet nights, particularly when fog rolls in from the water, visitors report hearing high-pitched, anguished cries that seem to emanate from the dense woods bordering the shoreline. These sounds are often sudden and startling, carrying over the lake with an unnatural clarity. Observers describe moments when the screams appear to move closer, then retreat into the darkness, leaving a profound sense of isolation and dread. Locals attribute these screams to individuals lost in past accidents or drownings, suggesting that their fear and panic continue to echo through the environment, unable to find release. Physical sensations often accompany the visual and auditory phenomena. Witnesses describe sudden drops in temperature near docks, on the water, and along the forested shorelines. Some report the sensation of being watched or followed, an almost tangible presence pressing in from the shadows. Boaters occasionally feel subtle nudges or resistance while moving through the water, while swimmers sometimes experience cold touches along their limbs. These experiences reinforce the sense that Higgins Lake is not merely a natural environment, but a place imbued with lingering energy, a threshold between the living and the lost. Local lore ties these hauntings to the Lockyer-esque long history of drownings and accidents. Over the decades, individuals venturing onto the lake or exploring surrounding forests have occasionally gone missing, fallen victim to sudden storms, or perished in boating mishaps. Residents believe the spirits of those lost continue to inhabit the lake and its shores, manifesting through boats, figures, and disembodied screams. Fishermen, hikers, and nighttime visitors are often cautioned by locals, who warn that Higgins Lake is at its most active after dark, especially during foggy nights or when the air is still. Paranormal investigators have documented the lake's activity extensively. Audio recordings capture faint screams, whispers, and occasional splashes. Thermal imaging reveals cold spots along docks, boats, and forested shorelines. EMF meters frequently spike in areas associated with past accidents. Cameras have occasionally captured fleeting, indistinct figures moving along the water or emerging from its surface, consistent with eyewitness accounts. Investigators note that the phenomena are most pronounced during quiet nights with minimal wind, when every ripple, sound, and shadow is amplified. Fog and mist enhance the haunting qualities of Higgins Lake. Shadowy figures appear closer. The echo of screams seems more immediate, and boats seem to drift with a life of their own. Visitors describe the sensation of entering a space where time and the physical world feel altered, a place where the boundary between life and death is fragile, and where the past continues to manifest vividly in the present. Locals advise caution for anyone visiting the lake at night. Swimming, boating, or walking near the shore after dark is discouraged. Encounters with phantom boats, figures emerging from the water, or screams from the pine forest are reported to leave lasting impressions, reinforcing Higgins Lake's reputation as a site of both beauty and lingering unease. Higgins Lake in Roscommon County is more than a scenic retreat. Its moving rowboats, rising figures, and forest-bound screams testify to lives lost and spirits that remain. For those who visit after dusk, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation, it is a hauntingly alive place where the past reaches across the water and into the night, and where the unseen continues to make itself felt amid the pine-shrouded shores. The shoreline of Lake Superior along Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula is a rugged and breathtaking landscape where cliffs meet the dark, churning waters of the largest of the Great Lakes. By day, the area attracts hikers, photographers, and nature enthusiasts drawn to its dramatic vistas, pristine forests, and the glimmering expanse of water stretching to the horizon. But beneath the surface of its natural beauty lies a history marked by tragedy and loss. For centuries, shipwrecks, ice storms, and sudden winter storms have claimed lives along this treacherous stretch of water, leaving behind lingering energy that many say has never truly departed. Travelers and locals alike report ghostly phenomena, floating apparitions, anguished screams carried by the wind, and mysterious lights dancing on the waves, creating a chilling atmosphere that has earned the Keweenaw Peninsula's shoreline a reputation as one of the most haunted places along Lake Superior. Floating apparitions are among the most common and unsettling phenomena reported along the shoreline. Witnesses describe ghostly figures appearing just above the waves or drifting along the water, translucent and barely discernible in the dim light of dawn or dusk. Some figures resemble sailors from centuries past, clad in weathered coats or maritime clothing, faces pale and frozen in expressions of fear or determination. Others appear more ethereal, like shadows rising from the depths, untethered to any identifiable form. Observers often report that the figures move with a purpose, as if retracing their final moments at sea, only to vanish abruptly, leaving no trace. Hikers and photographers along the cliffs sometimes spot these apparitions reflected in the water or partially obscured by mist, creating the impression that the spirits are simultaneously part of the lake and separate from it. Screams carried by the wind add an auditory dimension to the hauntings. On quiet nights or during foggy mornings, travelers describe hearing high-pitched, anguished cries that seem to originate both from the water and from the surrounding forests. These sounds often start abruptly, echoing across the cliffs and waves before fading into silence. Many report feeling a visceral chill as the screams echo, a sense that the air itself carries the anguish of those who perished. Locals maintain that these cries are the echoes of sailors lost in shipwrecks, travelers overtaken by sudden ice storms, or victims of other tragedies that have occurred along the Keweenaw Peninsula over the centuries. The sounds are not continuous, but when they occur, they create an intense and haunting experience for anyone present. Phantom lights dancing on the waves are another frequently reported phenomenon. Witnesses describe small, flickering orbs hovering above the water, moving erratically as if guided by unseen hands. At times, the lights appear in groups, hovering in formation before dispersing or fading entirely. Boaters and shoreline observers alike report that the lights sometimes follow them, bobbing just beyond reach, then vanish when approached. Many believe these lights are spectral representations of ship lanterns from vessels lost in storms, carried along the lake as if the past were refusing to let go. Others see them as warnings, guiding or cautioning those who venture too close to hidden dangers along the rocky shoreline. Physical sensations often accompany these visual and auditory experiences. Travelers report sudden drops in temperature near the water, localized cold spots along cliffs, and the sensation of being watched. Swimmers and kayakers have recounted feeling icy brushes against their limbs or boats shifting slightly without wind or current. These tactile experiences reinforce the impression that the lake is not merely a body of water, but a space infused with the memories and energy of those lost, a liminal zone where the living can encounter echoes of tragedy. Local lore ties these phenomena directly to the many shipwrecks, ice storm fatalities, and sudden storms that have occurred over centuries along Lake Superior's Keweenaw Peninsula. Mariners navigating the Lakia's unpredictable waters, travelers caught in unexpected winter storms, and icebound explorers all contributed to a history of loss that remains palpable today. Residents warn that the spirits of those lost continue to linger, manifesting through floating figures, screams, and lights, particularly during foggy, calm, or moonlit nights when the Lakia's eerie energy can be felt most intensely. Along the shoreline, audio recordings capture distant screams, whispers, and splashes. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots along cliffs and in shallow waters, near areas known for shipwrecks or fatalities. Fleeting, translucent figures or flickering lights moving across the waves. Calm, foggy nights or stormy conditions, when environmental noise is minimal, allowing the lingering energy of past tragedies to manifest more clearly. Fog, mist, and ice storms intensify the haunting presence of Lake Superior. Low-hanging fog drifts across the water, obscuring visibility and amplifying sound. Screams seem closer, apparitions appear more defined, and lights dance with greater intensity. Visitors describe the sensation of stepping into a space where time and reality feel altered, where the boundary between life and death is fragile, and where the past replays vividly before those who venture near the lake at night. Locals advise caution for those exploring the shoreline after dark. Boating, swimming, or lingering along the cliffs is discouraged, especially during fog, storms, or calm nights when the lake's haunting activity is most pronounced. Encounters with ghostly figures, unexplained lights, or the cries of the lost leave lasting impressions, reinforcing the area's reputation as a place where tragedy endures and the unseen continues to make itself felt. Lake Superior's shoreline along the Keweenaw Peninsula is more than a scenic retreat. Its floating apparitions, screams carried by the wind, and phantom lights on the waves testify to lives lost and spirits that remain. For those who visit after dusk or during misty nights, the lake is not just a natural wonder, it is a hauntingly alive space, where the past reaches across the water, and where the echoes of tragedy continue to resonate across waves and cliffs alike. Portage Lake in Houghton County, Michigan, sits amid rolling hills and dense forests, its calm surface reflecting the sky and industrial remnants from a bygone era. By day, the lake is a quiet retreat for fishermen, kayakers, and nature enthusiasts drawn to its serene waters and picturesque surroundings. Yet beneath this peaceful appearance lies a history marked by tragedy. During the early 1900s, industrial accidents along the lake claimed numerous lives, leaving a legacy that locals say still lingers. Visitors frequently report ghostly phenomena, faces rising from the water, disembodied cries echoing across the surface, and blood-curdling screams that chill even the bravest fishermen. Faces rising from the water, disembodied cries echoing across the surface, and blood-curdling screams that chill even the bravest fishermen. These haunting experiences have earned Portage Lake a reputation as one of the most haunted lakes in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves faces emerging from the water. Witnesses describe ghostly visages appearing just above the surface, pale and distorted, sometimes staring directly at observers with expressions of fear, pain, or desperation. Anglers recount moments when they glance across the lake to see a face briefly break the surface, only to vanish when they blink or approach. These faces often appear near old docks, industrial remnants, or areas where past accidents are documented, suggesting a direct connection between the haunting and the Lakia's tragic history. Some observers report multiple faces appearing at once, creating a surreal and unnerving tableau that lingers in memory long after the sighting. Disembodied cries and moans are another hallmark of Portage Lakia's hauntings. During quiet evenings, especially when fog blankets the water, visitors hear faint, distant voices echoing across the lake. The cries often sound like workers calling for help or children crying, sometimes overlapping in a chaotic chorus that rises and falls unpredictably. Anglers, hikers, and shoreline observers have reported that these sounds intensified during the early morning or late evening hours, creating an eerie soundtrack that seems tied to the Lakia's history of industrial tragedy. Locals maintain that the voices are the echoes of those lost in accidents, repeating their final moments over and over in the cold Upper Peninsula air. Screams that chill even the bravest fishermen are another unsettling phenomenon associated with the lake. These high-pitched, blood-curdling shrieks often seem to emanate from no specific source, bouncing across the water and nearby woods. Witnesses describe sudden spikes in fear as the screams cut through the stillness, accompanied by an almost tangible tension in the air. Even seasoned anglers familiar with the lake report moments of paralyzing unease when confronted with these cries, as if the lake itself has become a conduit for the anguish of those who perished. The screams often coincide with the sudden appearance of mist or fog, lending an otherworldly quality to the experience and making it impossible to determine whether what is seen and heard is natural or supernatural. Physical sensations often accompany the visual and auditory manifestations. Visitors describe sudden drops in temperature along the water, localized cold spots near docks or industrial ruins. Anglers sometimes report their equipment moving subtly, as if pushed by invisible hands, while swimmers and waders have described brief, chilling brushes against their limbs. These tactile encounters reinforce a perception that Portage Lake is more than just a body of water. It is a living repository of past tragedy, with residual energy manifesting in ways that are both frightening and palpable. Local lore attributes these phenomena to the industrial accidents that occurred in the early 20th century. Miners, workers, and laborers involved in processing, shipping, or other industrial activities around the lake were often injured or killed on the job. Reports indicate that falls, drownings, and machinery accidents were frequent, leaving a deep imprint on the community and, locals believe, on the lake itself. Over the decades, the energy of these tragedies has continued to linger, manifesting in ghostly faces, cries, and screams, especially on quiet nights when environmental conditions allow the past to intrude upon the present. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Portage Lake extensively. Audio recordings capture faint cries, moans, and shrieks with no identifiable source. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots near docks, industrial remnants, and along the shoreline. EMF meters frequently spike unpredictably in areas associated with documented accidents. Cameras have occasionally captured fleeting faces rising from the water, blurred and translucent, consistent with eyewitness accounts. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during foggy nights, low winds, and early morning hours, when the lake's surface is still and quiet. Mist and fog intensify the haunting nature of the lake. Low-lying fog drifts across the water, obscuring visibility, amplifying sound, making the cries and shrieks seem closer, faces more defined, and the chilling sensations more intense. Visitors describe a heightened sense of entering a liminal space, where the boundary between life and death feels thin, and where the echoes of past tragedy are tangible and unavoidable. Locals frequently advise caution for anyone visiting Portage Lake at night. Fishing, boating, or walking along the shoreline is discouraged, particularly during foggy or calm nights. Encounters with ghostly faces, disembodied cries, or blood-curdling screams are often reported to leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the Lockia's reputation as a haunting site where history and spirits intersect. Portage Lake in Houghton County is more than a serene retreat. Its rising faces, echoing cries, and chilling screams, bearing witness to lives lost and spirits that remain. For those who visit after dusk or during foggy nights, the lake is not merely a scenic destination. It is a hauntingly alive place where tragedy endures and where the echoes of the past continue to ripple across its dark, still waters. Burt Lake in Sheboygan County, Michigan, is a vast and tranquil body of water surrounded by dense forests and marshlands, offering a serene retreat for fishermen, boaters, and nature enthusiasts during the day. Its calm waters and quiet shoreline create the impression of a peaceful wilderness, but beneath the surface lies a history that has left a lasting and unsettling mark. Over the years, residents and visitors have reported strange and inexplicable occurrences on the Lockia, ghostly hands dragging fishing nets, sudden splashes in otherwise calm waters, and flickering, phantom lights floating above the surface. These unusual phenomena have made Burt Lake a focal point for tales of hauntings, a place where the natural and supernatural seem to intertwine. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves fishermen encountering ghostly hands dragging their nets. Many anglers recount moments when, despite having no one else on the boat or nearby, their nets suddenly move, as if pulled by unseen forces beneath the surface. Some describe feeling a tug so strong it threatens to tip their small vessels, only for the net to drop quietly once the pull ceases. Witnesses often notice a sensation of cold, clammy hands brushing against their fingers as they attempt to investigate, leaving them startled and shaken. These mysterious interactions have led many to believe that the lake holds the spirits of those who perished in fishing accidents or drowned in the lake over the decades, lingering to continue the work they once performed in life. Unexplained splashes are another hallmark of Burt Lake's hauntings. On otherwise calm nights, observers report hearing the sudden sound of water breaking as though Sumania or something is moving beneath the surface. Boats may rock gently without wind or current, and swimmers often feel unseen disturbances around their legs or oars. The splashes are unpredictable, occurring in areas far from other activity, and are sometimes accompanied by faint ripples that fade into the stillness of night. Locals speculate that these disturbances are the residual energy of past drownings or accidents, replaying in an endless, silent cycle. Some fishermen have even reported seeing dark, shadowy shapes briefly breach the surface in the moments following the splashes, only to vanish as quickly as they appeared. Phantom lights floating above the lake add a visual dimension to Burt Lockia's eerie reputation. Witnesses describe small, flickering orbs hovering just above the water, moving erratically as if guided by unseen hands. At times, the lights appear in clusters, darting across the surface in synchronized movements before fading entirely. Boaters have reported the lights seeming to follow them, moving closer as they try to approach, only to disappear when they reach the spot. These luminous phenomena are often described as soft, pale glossa, sometimes white, other times tinged with green or bluea, casting reflections on the water. Local lore suggests that the lights may be connected to the spirits of lost fishermen or travelers, warning or interacting with those who venture onto the lake after dark. Physical sensations often accompany these auditory and visual phenomena. Witnesses report sudden drops in temperature near docks or open water, and some describe feeling a subtle but persistent pressure, as though unseen presences are nearby. Fishermen recount an unnerving sensation of being watched, even when no one is visible, and swimmers have felt cold brushes against their legs that leave lingering chills. These tactile experiences reinforce the impression that Burt Lake is more than a natural landscape. It is a liminal space where the energy of the past continues to interact with the living. Local lore ties these haunting experiences to the lake's long history of accidents, drownings, and misfortune. Many individuals were lost to sudden storms, treacherous currents, or mishaps during fishing expeditions. Residents maintain that the spirits of those lost remain tied to the lake, manifesting through ghostly hands, unexpected splashes, and floating lights. Encounters are most often reported at night or during foggy conditions, when the lake is calm and the environment amplifies every sound, ripple, and shadow. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Burt Lake extensively. Audio recordings capture faint splashes, whispers, and low groans with no identifiable source, while thermal imaging frequently reveals cold spots along docks, boats, and shorelines. EMF meters often spike unpredictably in areas associated with historical accidents or drownings. Cameras have occasionally caught blurred, shadowy figures moving beneath the surface, or luminous orbs drifting across the water, consistent with eyewitness accounts. Investigators note that these phenomena are strongest during foggy, calm nights or when the water is particularly still, conditions that seem to allow the Lakia-esque lingering energy to manifest more clearly. Fog and mist intensify the haunting effect of Burt Lake. Low-lying fog drifts across the water, obscuring visibility and distorting sounds, making splashes seem closer and lights appear more vivid. Shadowy shapes and apparitions seem to move with purpose, and even the faintest noise echoes unnaturally across the lake. Observers describe the sensation of stepping into a space where reality is altered, where time feels stretched, and where the presence of the past is almost tangible. Locals advise caution for anyone venturing onto Burt Lake at night. Swimming, boating, or fishing after dusk is discouraged, especially in fog or still conditions when the lake's haunting activity is most pronounced. Encounters with ghostly hands, unexplained splashes, or floating lights are often reported, leaving lasting impressions, reinforcing the lake's reputation as a place where the spirits of the past remain active and aware. Burt Lake in Sheboygan County is more than a scenic retreat. Its ghostly hands, mysterious splashes, and phantom lights testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those who visit after dark, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation. It is a hauntingly alive place where the energy of the past continues to ripple across the water, and where the unseen remains ever present along the quiet, forested shoreline. Grand Lake in Presque Isle County, Michigan, stretches quietly among rolling hills and dense forests, its glassy waters reflecting the sky and surrounding landscape. By day, the lake is a destination for fishermen, kayakers, and families seeking tranquility and natural beauty. But beneath its serene surface lies a history that has left an unsettling mark. Over the years, locals and visitors have reported strange and unexplained occurrences. Apparitions seemingly walking across the water, anguished screams echoing from nowhere, and a chilling sensation of being watched from the depths. These phenomena have earned Grand Lake a reputation as one of the most haunted lakes in Michigan, a place where the past and present intermingle in ways that unsettle even the most seasoned visitors. Among the most frequently reported hauntings are the apparitions seen walking across the Lakia-esque surface. Witnesses describe figures appearing to glide over the water, as though it were solid ground, their forms translucent and ghostly in the dim light of dawn or dusk. Some figures resemble men or women from decades past, clothed in old-fashioned attire, while others appear as shadowy silhouettes with indistinct features. Boaters, kayakers, and shoreline observers alike have described seeing these figures move with purpose, sometimes approaching the shore or appearing to follow their vessels before vanishing without a trace. The apparitions often leave a lingering chill in the air, as if the very atmosphere of the lake is charged with their presence. Screams echoing from nowhere are another hallmark of Grand Lakia's eerie reputation. Visitors frequently report hearing high-pitched, anguished cries that seem to come from the middle of the lake or the surrounding forests. These sounds often start abruptly, piercing the quiet of the night or the calm of early morning, before fading into silence. Anglers and campers describe moments when the cries intensify, echoing off the water and cliffs, leaving a profound sense of isolation and unease. Locals believe these screams are the echoes of those lost accidents on the Lakia. Fishermen swept away by sudden storms, swimmers overtaken by strong currents, or travelers who perished along its shores. The cries often carry an almost tangible weight, instilling fear even in those familiar with the lake. A pervasive sensation of being watched adds to the haunting experience at Grand Lake. Visitors consistently report feeling eyes on them, a presence lurking just beyond their line of sight. Boaters describe sudden chills and an oppressive feeling when glancing across the water, as though unseen figures are observing every movement. Swimmers and waders sometimes feel a subtle brush along their legs or a shift in the water nearby, creating a sense of immediate and inexplicable danger. These physical sensations, combined with the visual and auditory phenomena, create an environment where the lake feels alive with lingering energy, an intersection between the living and the unseen. Local lore ties the phenomena to Grand Lake's long history of accidents and tragedies. Over the decades, people have lost their lives in boating mishaps, sudden storms, and drownings. Residents maintain that the spirits of those lost remain tied to the lake, their energy manifesting in ways that can be both subtle and terrifying. Encounters are most often reported during calm nights or foggy conditions, when every sound, ripple, and shadow is amplified, allowing the lake's haunted history to emerge in startling clarity. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Grand Lake extensively. Audio recordings capture unexplained screams, whispers, and occasional splashes. Thermal imaging reveals cold spots along the shoreline and on the water at surface. EMF meters often spike unpredictably near areas associated with historical accidents. Cameras have occasionally captured faint, ghostly figures appearing to walk across the lake or linger near the shore. Consistent with eyewitness accounts, investigators note that these manifestations are strongest on quiet, foggy nights or during the early hours before dawn, when environmental noise is minimal and the Lakia-esque lingering energy can emerge unimpeded. Fog and mist heighten the lake's haunting atmosphere. Low-hanging fog drifts across the water, obscuring visibility and amplifying sounds, making distant screams more vivid and apparitions appear closer. Observers describe a sensation of stepping into a liminal space where the boundaries between the living and the dead feel thin, where the past seems to replay itself over and over, and where the presence of unseen spirits is almost tangible. The combination of reflective waters, dense forests, and heavy fog creates an eerie environment in which even familiar locations take on an otherworldly quality. Locals frequently advise caution for those visiting Grand Lake after dark. Swimming, boating, or lingering along the shoreline at night is discouraged, especially during foggy or calm nights when the lake's paranormal activity is most pronounced. Encounters with apparitions walking across the water, sudden screams, or the feeling of unseen eyes observing have been reported, reinforcing the lake's reputation as a site where the spirits of the past remain present. Grand Lake in Presque Isle County is more than a scenic retreat. Its ghostly figures, echoing screams, and the unshakable feeling of being watched testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those who visit after dusk or during foggy mornings, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation. It is a hauntingly alive place, where the energy of the past continues to ripple across the water, and where the unseen watches from beneath the surface, waiting to make itself known. Lake St. Helen in Roscommon County, Michigan, lies amid dense forests and rolling hills, its calm waters reflecting the sky and the surrounding landscape. By day, the lake is a serene destination for fishermen, boaters, and families seeking the quiet beauty of its sandy shores and pine-studded banks. Yet beneath its placid surface lies a history steeped in tragedy. Over the decades, a number of drownings and accidents have left an indelible mark on the area, giving rise to tales of hauntings that continue to unsettle visitors. Locals report ghostly figures rising from the Lakia-esque depths, disembodied cries echoing across the water, and shadowy forms pacing the shorelines at night. These experiences have earned Lake St. Helen a reputation as one of Michigan's most haunted lakes, a place where the past seems to linger just beneath the surface. One of the most common reports involves figures rising from the depths, Witnesses describe ghostly shapes emerging slowly from the water, their forms indistinct but human-like. Some appear fully formed with pale, dripping features, while others are more shadowy, mere outlines against a moonlit surface. Boaters and shoreline observers alike have described seeing these figures lift themselves from the water, sometimes staring directly at them before sinking back silently beneath the surface. Anglers recount moments when they glance across the lake and see movement just beyond the reach of their lights, only to find the water calm and undisturbed moments later. Many believe these figures are the spirits of those who perished in the lake, returning to the surface to relive the moments before their tragic end. Disembodied cries are another chilling feature of Lake St. Helena's haunted reputation. On quiet nights, particularly when fog drifts across the water, visitors report hearing faint wails, sobs, or anguished screams. These sounds often appear to come from the middle of the lake or the wooded shorelines, echoing unnaturally across the water. Anglers, campers, and hikers have described moments when the cries intensify suddenly, creating a sense of imminent danger or deep sorrow. Locals say these voices are the echoes of those lost in drowning accidents, replaying their final moments endlessly. Even those familiar with the lake report a visceral shiver when the cries fill the night air. Shadowy forms pacing the shoreline complete the haunting tableau. Observers frequently report seeing indistinct figures walking along the sandy banks or among the trees lining the lake. Others seem unaware of the living, absorbed in their own ethereal existence. Campers and night fishermen have described the sensation of being watched by these figures, a weightless presence that seems to follow them even as they move along the shore. The combination of sight and sensation creates an environment where the lake feels alive, with memories and spirits, a place where the boundary between life and death feels thin. Physical sensations often accompany these experiences. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature near the water or along the shoreline, sometimes accompanied by a cold breeze that seems to come from nowhere, while swimmers occasionally report icy touches beneath the surface. These tactile encounters reinforce the impression that Lake St. Helena is more than just a natural body of water. It is a place charged with residual energy, a living memorial to those who were lost and to the tragedies that unfolded there. Local lore ties these hauntings directly to the Lakia's history of drownings and accidents. Over the decades, swimmers, boaters, and even people walking along the shore have met untimely deaths, often in sudden and unexpected circumstances. Residents believe that the spirits of these individuals remain tethered to the lake, manifesting through ghostly figures, cries, and shadows that appear when environmental conditions are just right. Encounters are most often reported during foggy nights, calm evenings, or moments when the moonlight glints off the water, creating a setting that amplifies the haunting phenomena. Paranormal investigators have documented activity at Lake St. Helena extensively. Audio recordings capture faint sobs, wails, and occasional screams with no discernible source. Thermal imaging often reveals cold spots along the shore docks and shallow areas of the lake. EMF meters register unexplained spikes in areas associated with past drownings. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting, indistinct figures rising from the water or pacing along the banks. Investigators note that the phenomena are most pronounced on calm, foggy nights, when the stillness of the lake allows the residual energy of past tragedies to manifest more clearly. Fog, mist, and moonlight intensify the haunting presence of Lake St. Helena. Low-lying fog drifts across the water, obscuring shapes and muffling sounds. Reflections in the moonlit surface can create ghostly illusions. Witnesses describe an eerie sensation of stepping into a liminal space, where time and reality feel suspended, where the cries, figures, and shadows of the past continue to replay their stories. The lake becomes more than a scenic location. It transforms into a place where the living can sense the weight of history and the presence of lingering spirits. Locals advise caution for those visiting Lake St. Helena after dusk. Swimming, boating, or lingering along the shore at night is discouraged, especially during fog or calm conditions when the haunting activity is most pronounced. Encounters with figures rising from the depths disembodied cries, or shadowy forms pacing the shoreline are often reported, leaving lasting impressions, reinforcing the Lakia-esque reputation as a place where tragedy and the unseen remain ever present. Lake St. Helen in Roscommon County is more than a tranquil retreat. Its rising figures, echoing cries, and shadowy forms testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those who visit after dark or during misty nights, the lake is not merely a destination for recreation. It is a hauntingly alive place where the past continues to ripple across the water and where the unseen watches silently from the shore and depths alike. Lake Cadillac in Wexford County, Michigan, stretches across a serene landscape of forests, parks, and gently rolling hills, its glassy surface reflecting the sky and surrounding greenery. By day, it is a haven for fishermen, kayakers, and families enjoying the calm waters and scenic shores. Yet beneath this tranquil exterior lies a darker history. Over decades, the lake has claimed lives through drownings, boating accidents, and sudden storms, leaving a lingering presence that locals say has never fully dissipated. Visitors frequently report ghostly phenomena, phantom figures rising from the water, screams echoing into surrounding forests, and mysterious lights floating above the lake at midnight. These experiences have earned Lake Cadillac a reputation as one of Michigan's most haunted bodies of water, where the line between the living and the dead seems perilously thin. Among the most commonly reported phenomena are phantom figures emerging from the water. Witnesses describe ghostly shapes rising slowly from the lake, their forms faint and indistinct but unmistakably human. Some appear as pale, drowned figures with water streaming from their hair and clothes, while others are mere shadows, moving with a deliberate, eerie purpose. Boaters have reported seeing these figures lift themselves from the water, sometimes staring directly at them before disappearing as suddenly as they appeared. Anglers and shoreline observers often recount moments when the lake seems completely calm, only to have a shape breach the surface and vanish moments later, leaving an unsettling stillness in its wake. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of those lost to the lake, replaying their final, tragic moments in an endless cycle. Screams echoing into the forest are another signature haunting of Lake Cadillac. On quiet nights, particularly under the cover of darkness or heavy fog, visitors report hearing high-pitched, anguished cries. Locals suggest these are the echoes of those who drowned or perished in boating accidents, replaying the terror and anguish of their final moments. Even experienced fishermen and campers describe an intense feeling of unease when these screams pierce the night, a chilling reminder of the lake's deadly history. Mysterious lights hovering above the lake add a visual dimension to its haunted reputation. Witnesses frequently report seeing small, flickering orbs, sometimes white, other times tinged with blue or green, floating just above the surface or moving along the shoreline. At times, the lights appear in groups, moving in patterns before dispersing entirely. Boaters often describe the lights following their vessels, maintaining a distance as though observing, then vanishing when approached. Local legends suggest these spectral lights are linked to the spirits of those lost on the lake, serving as warnings or guiding restless souls who cannot find peace. Others speculate that the lights may be residual energy from tragic accidents, manifesting as luminous echoes of the past. Physical sensations often accompany these ghostly sights and sounds. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature near the water or along the shore, sometimes accompanied by inexplicable cold gusts. Anglers and boaters have described feeling a subtle brush along their limbs or the sensation of invisible hands tugging at their clothing. Swimmers occasionally experience unexpected pulls or splashes, even in calm waters, intensifying the sense that the lake is alive with unseen presences. These tactile experiences reinforce the notion that Lake Cadillac is not merely a natural body of water. Local lore connects these haunting experiences to the lake's long history of drownings and accidents. Over the decades, countless lives have been lost in sudden storms, boating mishaps, or accidental falls into the water. Residents maintain that the spirits of the deceased remain tethered to the lake, manifesting in visual, auditory, and physical ways. that are especially pronounced under certain conditions of foggy nights, moonlit evenings, and quiet. Still waters amplify these manifestations. Many believe that the lake itself holds the memories of these tragedies, replaying them for anyone who ventures too close after dark. Paranormal investigators have recorded activity at Lake Cadillac extensively. Audio recordings capture faint screams, sobs, and splashes with no identifiable source. Thermal imaging reveals sudden cold spots along docks and near the shoreline, while EMF meters register unpredictable spikes in areas associated with historical accidents. Cameras have occasionally captured fleeting, ghostly figures rising from the water or drifting near the surface, consistent with eyewitness accounts. Investigators note that these phenomena are most pronounced during foggy or calm nights, when the lake's energy seems free to manifest without interference. Mist, fog, and moonlight intensify the lake's eerie atmosphere. Low-lying fog rolls across the water, obscuring vision and amplifying every sound. Shadows and reflections in the moonlit surface create illusions that appear unnervingly real. Distant screams echo louder, filling the silence with an almost tangible dread. Visitors describe a sensation of stepping into a liminal space where the past is present, and where the boundary between life and death feels fragile and permeable. Locals advise extreme caution for anyone visiting Lake Cadillac after dark. Swimming, boating, or lingering along the shore is discouraged, particularly in foggy or calm conditions. When paranormal activity is most pronounced, encounters with phantom figures, echoing screams, or mysterious lights are reported to leave lasting impressions, reinforcing the Lockyer S reputation as a place where the past continues to assert itself. Lake Cadillac in Wexford County is more than a peaceful retreat. Its ghostly figures, echoing screams, and mysterious floating lights testify to lives lost and spirits that linger. For those who visit after dusk or during foggy nights, the lake is not merely a scenic location, it is a hauntingly alive place, where tragedy continues to ripple across the water, and where the unseen remains ever-present, watching from the depths and the shore alike. Michigan's lakes are more than serene waters. They are resting places of the lost, the drowned, and the forgotten. Across these 25 haunted lakes, the dead whisper, the waters move unnaturally, and the fog hides more than it reveals.